He's the Lord of Minecraft, not the Light God King. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Faith Taming. Amidst the earth-shattering roar of the crowd, Rezha and the others maintained gentle pious smiles. However, their gazes, like those of the believers below, were focused on the Pope, who seemed to radiate boundless light. Their faces were calm, but their hearts were filled with awe. I hope readers will remember our domain name. They finally understood why Ian had been tirelessly digging sand and growing flowers these past few days. No one understood better than they the shock they had experienced this evening. Blueprint the quietest hour of last night in Blackwater City, before their very eyes in 3 hours. He had created the miracle behind him. Point from nothing to something. In 3 hours an impossible castle, rising from the ground. Ian said this was using the features of the MC world to fabricate a miracle point, but in the eyes of Rezha and the others, this was no fabrication at all. It was divine creation. Did a true miracle need fabrication? Ian had once added a lot of impressive features to feature in the Dawn God cult creation plan to highlight the Dawn's grandeur. For example, the Dawn is the source of everything. The Dawn is the father of all things. The Dawn's 7 days of creation. Things like that. At the time, Rezha and the others thought Ian's ideas were fanciful, unrealistic, and too grandiose. After all, with their knowledge, hearing that the 7 demon lords could directly destroy a city of millions with forbidden spells was no different from a god. What 7 days of creation? Lords, could they create such a miraculous and divine building in 3 hours? Therefore, Ian is the god of dawn, and what the divine oracle says are all the powers that Ian himself possesses. This is not nonsense, it is an objective fact. Before spreading the faith of a god, one of the necessary conditions for spreading the faith is that your own people firmly believe in it. At this moment, Leah and the others still had thousands of shocks in their hearts, eager to talk to Ian about it. But the scene of roaring cheers and adulation before them made it impossible to open their mouths and break the sacred atmosphere. Involuntarily, Rezha and the others remembered a sentence that Ian had repeatedly mentioned some time ago. It will be alright. It will definitely be alright. This time, the Forbes families, no, the great Dawn God cult will surely conquer the demon race and rise above the world for eternity. At the thought of this, even the calm Leah couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. Ian was unaware of all this. He wore a comforting and benevolent smile, gently waving to the crowd below. From 20 people to more than 5,000, it only took him less than half a month of the 100 Clan Alliance, raise his arms, and have all spirits bow down, and praise the Dawn silence. More than 5,000 believers looked up at him with fanatical and excited eyes. Ian vowed that even the king of a duchy probably wouldn't enjoy the treatment he received as Pope. Of these 5,000 people, perhaps 1,000 had instantly transformed into fanatical believers. Even if they were asked to die, many would fanatically shout Dawn Eternal and fearlessly charge forward, willing to die for the Dawn and ascend to heaven. This is the meaning of creating a god. If politics cannot truly connect the 100 Clan Alliance, then let faith do it. If there is anything in the world that can resist human nature, it is only faith. With a relaxed smile on his lips, Ian slowly opened his mouth, and with the enhancement of his physique, his voice spread to everyone's ears. Children of the Dawn, your piety, your loyalty, have entered the Eye of Dawn. Therefore, the Dawn has bestowed a miracle, granting the Dawn Cathedral to protect his children. You have done well. As soon as these words came out, many devout fanatics burst into tears, prostrating themselves on the ground and kowtowing repeatedly, shouting Dawn is merciful. But for some reason, this scene, in the eyes of Rezha and the others, in addition to some shock, also felt a strong sense of creepiness. In just half a month, the Dawn God cult had already been able to easily manipulate believers. Will serve as the holy land of my Dawn God cult. Ian's gentle voice continued to spread. The newest and most up-to-date novels are first published at, but the Dawn is benevolent. He will not reject his most beloved children. The Dawn Cathedral will be open to all Dawn believers, whether you are an affiliated believer or a wild believer. As long as you have the Dawn in your heart, you can enter and feel the compassionate and holy embrace of the Dawn. The Dawn Cathedral welcomes all children who believe in the dawn to come here to pray and confess. The dawn will be here, lovingly gazing at all of you, thinking what you think, and hurrying to help you with what you need. This is the divine oracle of the dawn. In an instant, the crying here became even louder, especially from devout believers like old Matthew. They were crying so hard that they could no longer see what was in front of them, only vaguely seeing Ian standing under the miracle of the so-called cathedral. Like this dawn cathedral, he radiated a gentle light. Ian smiled and continued in a loud voice. The Dawn God cult once said that those who join the cult can receive eggs and bread at the beginning of the month. The dawn always keeps its word. Hand point without any visible action. The citizens of Blackwater City only saw dense masses of bread and eggs, one after another, endlessly flying out of Ian's wide sleeves and falling to the ground. Unlike the food they had seen before, the so-called food bestowed by the dawn was miraculously floating in the air, slowly spinning. Like the holy water, it was completely free of mud. The wide and bright 9-level staircase was gradually filled with a massive amount of food. Stepped forward and reached out, and food continued to pour out, until finally, the 9 steps were completely filled, with enough eggs and bread for at least several thousand people to eat. Only then did Ian and the others stop. Compared to the endless water, the floating stones, and the miraculous cathedral, the appearance of this food did not seem so miraculous. After all, many people knew that the demon race had certain spatial equipment. The dawn was watching over them. Many people even felt that they were being gazed upon by a gentle gaze, filled the surroundings of the cathedral, filling the nostrils of all the believers. In the past, when they were starving, they would have rushed up and grabbed it at all costs. Others, their eyes did not linger on the food at all. Compared to food, they cared more about the dawn's gaze. At this moment still firmly shifted their gaze, looking up at the eyes at the top of the cathedral, praying in their hearts, quietly observing all the believers. After a long time, seeing that no one was looking at the food, Ian chuckled softly. This is called faith conditioning. Chapter 27. A month is too long. Seize the day. Hello. The citizens of Blackwater City remembered clearly. Half a month ago, when the Church of the Dawn first recruited believers, they shouted, "Join the Church of the Dawn and receive eggs and bread at the beginning of the month." At that time, this expectation was their only hope for survival. But after witnessing the miracles of the dawn time and time again, and becoming familiar with the doctrines of the dawn, when the eggs and bread were actually delivered, these people didn't want to take them anymore. Now, they were even more afraid of being considered greedy by the dawn and being abandoned. For them, that was more painful than losing the hope of life. This is humanity. Once they bind themselves to a deity and faith, their words and deeds will be rooted in that faith. In Ian's hometown, in the era of rampant materialism, there were still billions of believers in God around the world. And in this ignorant era, faith is even more unmatched. Accept these gifts. They are what you deserve. Ian slowly raised his hand. You have earned these gifts with your piety. As soon as he finished speaking, some of the elders of the Church of the Dawn, led by old Matthew, immediately knelt down and choked with sobs deeply, bestowing holy water and descending the church. The love of the dawn is profound, and we only offer insignificant prayers. Under the great dawn, we have already received too much. How can we accept these foods? Ian chuckled and asked. Daily prayer, isn't that enough? The dawn never cares what or how much its children can do for it. As long as they do, the dawn will be pleased. Accept it. Next was the classic 3 refusals and 3 acceptances until Ian sternly demanded that everyone must accept the food they deserved. Only then did the enlisted believers of the Church of the Dawn carefully line up to receive it, one after another, until all the food in front of the steps had been distributed. I hope understands that these things, besides being food, are also the teachings of the dawn. A promise is worth 1,000 gold. Ian said meaningfully and earnestly, people can be poor, but they cannot be without faith. People can be in distress, but they cannot be dishonest. Compared to integrity, life and death are trivial matters. Countless believers didn't know whether they understood Ian's subtext, but they all looked enlightened. They repeatedly, gratefully thanked the teachings of the dawn. The aroma of bread from the MC world entered the noses of every believer holding bread helped themselves so, under the envious eyes of those who had not yet joined the Church of the Dawn, the enlisted believers began to feast one by one. while chewing. Their faces were full of contentment and honor. Even old Matthew, an old man who had been hungry for a long time and had a sallow complexion, was eating with a ruddy complexion. He actually ate a piece of bread as if it were some delicacy, carefully breaking off a small piece of bread and tearing it apart to bite. The look of enjoyment made on his face. The young man next to him couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. "Teacher Matthew, how does it taste?" Hearing this, old Matthew frowned. How could it be bad? Such top quality wheat bread, I'm afraid even the royal nobles in the capital haven't tasted it. It's more delicious than monster meat. After eating it, I feel like my whole body is full of strength. It is indeed a gift from our great heavenly Father. Old Matthew was indeed a teacher. Using his not so great knowledge, he described this bread as something that was unmatched in heaven and earth in a few words. The young man became even more greedy. "Teacher Matthew, can get lost." Old Matthew's face sank, and he instantly carefully put the bread and eggs in his arms. "Mr. Is of the Rackle, carefully enjoin the Church of the Dawn as soon as possible, but you didn't listen. Now that there are benefits, you are so active. Your heart of faith in the dawn is not sincere, and you want to share this glory." The young man was scolded by old Matthew, and soon, his face turned red. The believers ate with relish, and those who had not joined the Church of the Dawn swallowed their saliva one by one, constantly chanting that the dawn would last forever in their hearts. Ian watched all this with a smile. He had as many eggs and bread as he wanted. The construction of Dawn City in the MC world during this period was no joke. MC characteristics for a month. However, he would not be generous enough to directly take it out and distribute it to the citizens of Blackwater City. Faith has a price. These eggs and bread, to put it bluntly, are still an introduction and cannot solve the existing plight of Blackwater City. And Ian also wants to take this opportunity to show more MC miracles, to deepen Blackwater City's faith in the dawn. When these people had eaten almost enough and watched them carefully put away the remaining uneaten bread, Ian then continued to speak. "Future, at the beginning of each month, Dawn believers can still receive eggs and bread. The newest and most complete novels are first published at the Dawn loves all its children, and it hopes that you will understand the principle of self-reliance even more. However, there is a severe drought in the world today. Although we have the holy water to rely on, it still cannot solve the current predicament. Therefore, the Dawn has also bestowed other survival skills to help my Dawn believers make a living immediately." Whether it was the believers who had already eaten the bread or those who had not joined the enlisted ranks, their eyes lit up, and they looked at Ian with emotion and anticipation. The latter slowly walked down the steps, with Lyra and others closely following beside him. "Follow me to the farm in the city." A large group of people hurriedly picked up their belongings and followed behind the team. Peaceful point. The 100 races were weak, and magical beasts and demons were rampant. Even if they relied on the natural barrier to avoid the main territory of the demons. Occasionally, a small demon force would be born with the abyss that was born anywhere on the continent. It was too dangerous outside the city. Farming outside the city was only possible for some of the top big cities in the 100 Races Alliance. City was not far from the Church of the Dawn, about a 10-minute walk away. Ian led the large crowd there. The scale of the farmland was not large, just enough for the entire city's residents to use traces of crops, but they looked even with water irrigation, they might not survive. Seeing this, Ian sighed. The citizens of Blackwater City were really living in dire straits. But Ian's sigh made the believers of Blackwater City a little panicked. Old Matthew hurriedly said, "Not working hard enough. The holy water of the Great Dawn. We have been working very hard to irrigate. In another 3 months, no, 2 months, we will definitely be able to harvest crops and pay agricultural taxes." Ian asked back, "Then what about before the harvest?" Immediately, old Matthew was silent, and many believers lowered their heads guiltily. "In a year of severe drought, the farmland is abandoned. This is not your fault. You are also victims." Ian shook his head with a chuckle. "I have no intention of blaming you, but I'm entrusted by the Dawn to let the children of the Dawn get rid of their predicament and become self-reliant as soon as possible. My Lord is merciful." Old Matthew was moved to tears and clasped his hands together. "With the help of the Great Dawn and His Holiness the Pope, I, old Matthew, guarantee with my life that Blackwater City will definitely solve the crop problem within a month. month. That's too slow. Then 20 days. Still slow. Ian shook his head. The Great Dawn has infinite power and infinite ability. A month is too long. We only strive for the present. After saying that, he waved his hand, and bone meal flew out from his wide sleeves. It sprinkled on the 1 square meter area of farmland in front of him. A starlight green light flashed, and dense and lush rice plants instantly broke through the soil and fluttered under the sun. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Bone Meal Manifests. The Oracle of the Holy See. The Divine Journey. Part 4. God walked in the holy city, and saw the drought and barren fields, lamenting the suffering of the people, and thus filled carts with fine grain, bringing a bountiful harvest. On the continent of Rodri, there exists planting magic. However, humans do not understand it. The goblins in the western swamps and forests possess the power of the earth. They burrow into the land, shuttle through it, and the farmland they cultivated is inherently fertile. Not only do the crops planted there yield more per acre, but they also mature exceptionally quickly. In the elf forest, the dwellings of nature, the elves occasionally have beings who are born with the ability to wield natural magic. They can converse with nature, and are known as elf through its elven race. Their true duty is to respond to the elven tree of life, and accelerate the birth of elves. Farming. If anyone dares to make this request, the elves will kill them on the spot. In addition, there are also some demons who are proficient in plant magic, but the plants they are cultivate killer plants. Therefore, stimulating crops to grow is rare on the continent of Rodri, but it is not non-existent. But now, looking at the rice that had grown to the height of a person in an instant, with the full ears bending low, many people suddenly felt that they had only blinked their eyes, and the rice was ripe. Old Matthew, who was closest, swore that he hadn't even blinked to witness a miracle. With a whoosh, it skipped the long cultivation time and directly became mature ears of rice that could be harvested. Did it take even one breath, all things considered? Old Matthew didn't know. He didn't have the mind to ponder it, because in the short moment that he was pondering, Ian had already raised his foot and walked into the interior of the farmland. He walked in a straight line. In a daze, the believers of Blackwater City saw a god descending to walk, accompanied by the constant flying out of those powders from Ian's wide sleeves. Green light spots flickered non-stop in the earth. The line that Ian walked along was full of plump and thick ears of rice on both sides. One step forward, and the crops on both sides matured. Old Matthew's pupils dilated as he looked at Ian's back bloom. In the fields he treads, the 5 grains flourish. He has come, and misfortune is dispelled, and light descends immediately. Old Matthew murmured softly. This is the content of Article 42 of Chapter 3 of the Oracle. Before today, Old Matthew could only yearn to imagine how shocking this myth would be. But now, Old Matthew had a reference summary. At this moment, in front of all the believers in Blackwater City, mythology descended on this barren land. Just like what is said in the Oracle, God walks forward, and darkness retreats backward. God walks past, and light endures forever. A magnificent crown, and holding a golden scepter leisurely moving forward. Isn't that the greatness that carries the dawn? His side, or the roads he walked, became the endless hope of believers. Dawn be praised. His Holiness the Pope be praised. Old Matthew was the first to react, kneeling on the ground with a devout and solemn expression, clasping his hands in prayer. Our Father, our Lord, our loving and benevolent Dawn, I praise you. You are a faithful God. Your faithfulness lasts for generations, forever unchanging, and through your Holy Spirit, you have accomplished your promises in me. You are the supreme and great God. You are clothed in glory and majesty. Your light always shines within me, and also shines on the road before me. The devout and loud prayers, accompanied by Ian's step-by-step progress, the harvest of farmland after farmland, and became more and more holy and magnificent. Looking at Ian, who was leaving a harvest behind him, Letitia and others still couldn't help but murmur in shock. Young Master Ian truly has integrated showing off into his bones. Markov muttered in a low voice. Immediately, he was met with angry stares from Letitia and the others. The latest and most complete novels are first published at. What do you mean by showing off? Young Master Ian is doing the great cause of the dawn. What do you know? You're mindless. Shut up if you can't speak. Letitia rebuked him in one breath. Markov smiled sheepishly and kept silent. Leal looked around at the believers, listened to the prayers, and couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Now, the Dawn Church has completely become the uncrowned king of Blackwater City. Even if the Forbes family does not serve as the city lord, and the duchy sends someone to take over Blackwater City. Leal paused, a hint of coldness and arrogance flashed in his eyes. The orders of the royal family in Blackwater City must also act in the name of God. If the Dawn Church does not allow it, even if the king comes, he will be driven out. Blackwater City has completely become the shape of the Dawn Church. To put it bluntly, if you randomly grab a citizen of Blackwater City now, they probably won't recognize the king, only the Dawn Church. Divine faith has completely severed the kingship. Looking at the praying citizens of Blackwater City again, Leal couldn't help but feel chills in his heart. The power of faith is really terrifying, but fortunately, this power is controlled by them. Finally, Ian walked to the end of this road and turned back. And in front of his eyes, the farmland that was just a barren land a dozen minutes ago had now been divided into two by a road of harvest. Standing in front of the believers who were constantly kneeling and praying, Ian looked at Letitia and the others. Everyone secretly gave Ian a thumbs up, and Ian smiled happily. Playing the role of a divine manifestation, he may not be good at it, but with the magical showing off of the MC world, he still has no problem. To put it bluntly, Ian's hand just now, if there really were gods in this world, they would act like this. Of course, the oracle, which was prepared in advance, and integrated the strengths of hundreds of schools of thought from his hometown, also played an important role. Seeing Ian's creation of a harvest zone with bone meal, immediately thinking of the description in the oracle, this can constitute a response and produce the effect of catalyzing faith, a stable rear for the Dawn Church. In the future, even if generations of Blackwater City citizens are born, they will still firmly believe in the dawn. Just like the road Ian walked, Blackwater City has finally achieved the harvest of the Dawn Church. Next, we need to think about construction and expansion. Thinking in his heart, Ian slowly raised his hand. Hunger. I assure you, if faith does not die, you will never be hungry. The field fell into silence for a while, and after a long time, with the first cry ringing out, Blackwater City completely boiled over. The Pope is merciful. The dawn endures. Chapter 29. Dawn Church Bodyguard, Iron Golem. Many years later, Blackwater City became the holy city of the Rodri continent. The unremarkable path that Ian walked was also called the Path of Abundance, commemorating the great God King of Light's journey among mortals. Dawn bestows the spirit of abundance. To all who faithfully believe in the people of Dawn, Dawn grants you the means to make a living. I hope readers will remember our domain name here, Taiwan NovelNet. Besides Markov and the others, there were also High Priest Lael and the holy nuns like Regia. They all followed the rhetoric Ian had taught them in advance, chanting the name of Dawn, while scattering bone meal, to make the farmland fertile. Even though Blackwater City's farmland was small, it still supported an area of more than 5,000 people, and the amount of bone meal used was considerable. This quantity was also half of all the bone meal that Ian and the others had collected during this period by going down into the mines, killing monsters at night, and farming the monster spawners. Fortunately, it was used for the construction of Blackwater City, otherwise Regia would have felt sorry for it for a while. The believers of Blackwater City quietly watched in stunned silence until an hour passed. The entire farmland, in this unsuitable season, in this drought environment, in just one short hour, defied the laws and rules of nature and entered a season of abundance. Fields of golden rice and wheat, with full ears of rice and wheat, almost every stalk bent over. When the wind blew, the aroma of ripe grains wafted into the nostrils of the believers. To be honest, even old farmers like old Matthew, who had been farming all their lives, had never imagined that they would one day witness such a scene of abundance. Land of Blackwater City. Point other than a miracle, there was no other way to achieve all of this. God is truly real. This concept had completely entered the hearts of everyone in Blackwater City. For a time, the outside of the farmland where more than 5,000 believers had gathered was silent. Ian didn't care, he just glanced at the golden farmland. I have to say, the scenery of abundance was really pleasant. With these crops, plus the remaining bone meal, at least this year, the people of Blackwater City would be able to have a full year. With the problem of food and drinking water solved, Ian could take bigger actions for Blackwater City. It had been more than half a month since he came to Blackwater City, and everything was finally getting on track. Withdrawing his thoughts, Ian glanced at the crowd of believers and waved to old Matthew. Old Matthew immediately came back to his senses and stepped forward quickly. Your Holiness Pope, is there anything you need me for? Don't be nervous. Ian comforted him with a smile. I know you. You are the earliest believer to join the Dawn Church, and also a truly devout believer. Dawn is also watching you. This sentence made old Matthew even more excited than giving him gold. His old face with intertwined wrinkles immediately turned red, and he was full of glory. To be watched by the great Dawn and your Holiness Pope. It is truly the greatest honor of my life. Even if I die, it would be worth it. Ian smiled and placed the scepter on old Matthew's shoulder. Dawn protects all its children. Those who are as devout as you will ascend to the paradise even in death. However, now is not the time to talk about life and death. You are a truly devout believer, and you are also qualified to receive the harvest divine art bestowed by Dawn. Old Matthew was stunned for a moment, and immediately knelt down in great shock. Absolutely not, your Holiness Pope. Since joining the Dawn Church, I have received Dawn's grace everywhere, but I have never done anything for Dawn. Now, how can I have the face to accept the divine art bestowed by Dawn? Please, your Holiness Pope, withdraw your order. Ian helped old Matthew up, smiling gently, soothing old Matthew's panic. This is Dawn's trust and love for its children. What can you not bear? Moreover, Bishop Lael and I are usually busy with the affairs of the Dawn Church and do not have extra energy to manage these farmlands. You are devout in your faith, receive the divine art, and bestow hope to more of Dawn's children. Isn't this also the important task Dawn has given you? As soon as these words came out, Regia and the others watched as old Matthew, who was still panicked just now, upon hearing the important task entrusted by Dawn, his expression suddenly changed, and his expression was full of determination. To die 1,000 times of fire, I will everything for our merciful Father. Your Holiness Pope, please bestow upon me the divine art, to share the worries for the great Dawn. Ian smiled with satisfaction. Very good. From this moment on, in the name of the Pope of the Dawn Church, I appointed Matthew as the priest of the Dawn Church in Blackwater City, to receive the power of Dawn's harvest divine art, to resist famine for the believers of Blackwater City. Old Matthew solemnly, completely and enthusiastically raised his hands above his head. I dedicate everything to the great Dawn. At this moment, the first priest of the Dawn Church besides Lael and the others was born. The newest and most complete novels are first published at Born. He simply told old Matthew about his duties as a priest. He told old Matthew where the bone meal was stored in the church, what conditions must be met for future use, and so on. He also asked old Matthew to try using bone meal to ripen crops himself. After a while, looking at the abundant crops that were sprouted by the Dawn divine art displayed by his own hands, old Matthew's hunched back also straightened immediately. He had received Dawn's approval, and from now on, he was a serious grassroots administrator of the Dawn Church. Of course, this was not important. The most important thing was that old Matthew understood that he was being watched by Dawn. This was a major event that would bring glory to his ancestors. Priest Matthew, please take care of the harvesting and distribution of these crops. Blackwater City on weekdays. After you have arranged the planning of the crops, you only need to give us a list. Old Matthew immediately nodded heavily. I will definitely live up to the trust of the Great Dawn and your Holiness Pope. Looking at the other believers who were still a little unable to recover, Ian continued to move forward with the scepter. He was going to bestow the last miracle of Dawn, and at the same time, it was also considered to be reinforcing a layer of defense for Blackwater City. The citizens of Blackwater City were not clear about Ian's thoughts, but having witnessed the miracles of the MC world one after another, they were afraid of missing Dawn's next manifestation. They followed him every step of the way. Ian didn't continue to say some long speeches, such as dawn watching. The beliefs of the citizens of Blackwater City had been deeply rooted and no longer shaken under the influence of the MC world miracles patterned along the direction of the city wall. Finally, amid the blank stares of the believers of Blackwater City, he quickly placed pumpkins. The next moment, 10 square iron war gods nearly 3 meters tall, constructed of refined iron from top to bottom, landed on the ground. The heavy bodies were just standing there, and the surrounding earth was constantly sinking. Turning their square heads, they carefully looked at the more than 5,000 citizens of Blackwater City golems. Many people even retreated backward in fear. Chapter 30 Breeding MC horses is like hybrid rice. If the largest, we are talking about massive size, iron golems really don't rank high. The dragons and mountain giants of the Rodri continent, the of which can grow to nearly 20 meters tall. Their deterrent power is even stronger, but they are legendary ultimately beings. The last time they appeared on the Rodri continent was during the Fourth Anti-Magic War, when some appeared on the Sky Abyss front. Unfortunately, they were directly evaporated by a forbidden spell from the Rage of Rodri, which wiped out a dozen dragons and mountain giants. Whether they still exist now is unknown. However, the giants that roam the Rodri continent on a daily basis are approximately 7 or 8 meters tall, and one is worth more than 2 of these iron golems. But even so, the people of Blackwater City still feel that the iron golems are more ferocious war machine, or a mobile fortress. Whatever it is, the people of Blackwater City will never doubt how brutal this thing is. 10 iron golems standing there are a natural steel wall of the ground, the solid ground, that has been pressed by countless carriages, and people shows several footprints that are nearly 30 or 40 centimeters deep. The footprints are also square. Old Matthew swallowed hard, but as a fervent believer like him, he immediately thought this was a miracle bestowed by the dawn. Matthew's murmur, Ian replied without thinking. Probably about 30 tons, not particularly heavy, but in reality, if the iron golem takes action, I'm not sure about dragons, but the earth dragon will definitely be hammered to death. 30 tons. Old Matthew covered his heart, looking at the 10 war godlike iron golems with a shocked expression. Ian was looking at the ground, where the iron golems had walked, which had all collapsed. With the buildings in Blackwater City, it is estimated that, if the iron golems brushed against a pillar, it would collapse directly, even the city walls. He couldn't help but rejoice that he only planned to place 10 iron golems at the moment. If there were more, Blackwater City might be gone before it was attacked by the demons. Fortunately, Ian is now planning to use the resources of the MC world to start building Blackwater City on a large scale. The future obsidian walls, iron golems guarding the city. If ordinary demon troops really come over, how desperate would they be? Looking back at the retreating believers, Ian said loudly, "Everyone, don't be afraid. The dawn knows that we are now under the shadow of the demons, so it has bestowed upon us the guardians of the dawn, the iron golems. By the iron golems, with them, everyone's life will be more peaceful." As soon as these words came out, the believers who were somewhat panicked just now were immediately beaming with joy. Looking at these big guys, the iron golems, they are no longer afraid. In the eyes of the Blackwater City believers now, as long as it is associated with the name of the dawn, even zombies can be called messengers of the dawn. The power of faith has been completely ingrained in the bones of the Blackwater City believers. Our Lord is merciful. Old Matthew immediately chimed in, with a moved expression, granting us sweet rain, giving us spiritual sustenance, giving us food to reject hunger. Now, you are also concerned about our safety, and have bestowed guardians. How fortunate I'm to be a child of the dawn. That's the kind of straight man I want. Ian looked at old Matthew with satisfaction, and said loudly, "The guardians of the dawn do not need food, do not need to drink water. Their existence is only to protect the children of the dawn. From now on, they will always walk in Blackwater City, sending the protection of the dawn to the hearts of every believer of the dawn. Power, even the earth dragon, cannot bear." As soon as the voice fell, the excellent straight man old Matthew immediately patted his chest and continued, "Your Majesty Pope, don't worry. This is the guardian bestowed by the Great Dawn. We can't respect them enough. Whoever dares to disrespect the iron golem adults must be the evil demon enemy of the Great Dawn, and it deserves to be beaten to death. If we can't kill him, we will execute him." In the land of faith, there must be no one who disrespects the dawn. I will always supervise everyone. Ian was more and more satisfied with this priest he promoted. This guy's indeed a qualified believer, and depending on the situation in the future, he may be promoted again at his discretion. Thank you, Father Matthew. Ian slightly, and turned to look at Markov. Now, everything that needs to be done is almost done. Only one last thing remains. Recruit a papal army that is loyal to the faith and loyal to the Dawn Church. Lear ordered them to divide into more than 30 routes to attack the southern monster forest. In the tracking feedback, these soldiers sacrificed unfortunately, and even the corpses could not be found. Ian could only pray for them with a heavy heart, wishing them an early trip to hell. The Blackwater City Defense Army is now a name without reality, without a manager, and the Dawn Church has not paid attention to them. Basically, everyone has returned to ordinary believers. This saves Ian the trouble of having to personally announce the disbandment of the army. Taking advantage of today, when a miracle descends, and the citizens of Blackwater City are boiling with faith, let Markov quickly recruit enough Dawn Church papal army. This army will be truly belong to Ian, belong to the Dawn Church, and be loyal. And with the blessing of faith, Ian dares to guarantee that in less than a week, this army, from top to bottom, will be full of death warriors, fighting. Everyone will see the horror of the papal army. Especially with the blessing of the MC world, this fearless army will also be armed to the point where the demons will be desperate to see point. But then again, the horse farm should also be prepared. If you want to raise them, you have to raise the best, eugenics, and select genes. There are many detailed formulas for breeding horses, and Ian doesn't understand them very well, but how do you think about it? It is the same as hybrid rice. After picking and choosing open ear eyes and it's born. At that time, he, young Master Ian, will not only be the Pope of the Dawn Church. He is also the first Mendel on the Rodri continent. Speaking of which, I have to test whether the speed potion breeding horse bug has been retained someday. If that bug is still there, let alone a thoroughbred horse, a light speed horse can be raised. Markov, as his own person, understood what to do with a look from Ian. Immediately. He led the other knights wearing thick iron armor out of the queue and stood there. Although their height is not as good as the iron golems, each of them is also fierce and domineering, making many young and strong believers dizzy. The Dawn Church wants to recruit an army that belongs to the Great Dawn. This time, there is no need to say anything about eggs and bread, and even before talking about any treatment issues. Countless young people have already enthusiastically raised their hands and squeezed forward shoulder to shoulder. Me, let me go first, Holy Night Lord, let me come. I'm willing to die for the Dawn. Great Dawn is above. Our Father, our Lord, please give me the opportunity to follow you and your glory. I will bring glory to our Father with my life. Looking at the instantly hot and explosive recruiting scene, Ian smiled lightly and stepped back, quietly leaving with Lear and others, hiding his achievements and fame. Did you see, Lear? Only faith can achieve true popular support. Lear looked defend back at the recruiting ground with the roaring mountains and tsunami. Young Master Ian, this time, we didn't say we would send eggs and bread. That's right. Ian smiled heartily. There were no outsiders at this time, and he also unloaded his disguise. The Dawn Church, the general trend has been achieved. Thank you to Reader 1436 for the 5 monthly tickets. Thank you to all readers for the recommendation tickets. It's finally open. Chapter 31 Winged Girl. Today in Blackwater City, the miracles of the dawn were truly outrageous. First, there was the towering cathedral that rose from the ground overnight. Its architectural style as unbelievable as could be. Then there were the promised egg breads, which were also filled with a mysterious aura. Then there was the eyewitness account of the gods walking among humans, forging a path of harvest, witnessing myths becoming reality. Finally, there was the powerful lion puppet. City were to say they didn't believe in the dawn, they would likely be ostracized by the other believers, or even beaten up in severe cases. Blackwater City, from top to bottom, was now full of devout followers of the Dawn Army. Fight for the dawn, and you can ascend to heaven after death. With the current power of the Church of the Dawn, coupled with numerous miracles as guarantees, the citizens of Blackwater City firmly believed it. especially those believers who had not yet been formally enlisted, were even more anxious and fanatically leading for priority to join the army. If they couldn't do something for the dawn, they always felt that they weren't truly children of the dawn. They also wanted to be like old Matthew, receiving the loving attention of the great Heavenly Father. This enthusiastic scene made Markov, who was deliberately maintaining the demeanor of a paladin, overjoyed in his heart. Line up. No noise. Children of the dawn should not be so rude. Expected of the Church of the Dawn created by young Master Ian. Markov sighed in his heart and began to register the information of those who were eager to join the army with the other knights. Far away, under the shadow of a house, there was still that unusually dressed girl. A delicate and slightly thin face, with a body wrapped in a robe that was particularly large. It looked quite out of proportion. The girl didn't squeeze in with the others, fanatically begging to join the army. Her eyes lingered on the wandering iron puppet in the faintly visible dome of the church in the distant Celsius. Looking in the direction of Markov and the others, the girl's eyes were full of struggle. Child, I can feel your confusion. Can you talk to me about it? Suddenly, old Matthew's gentle voice sounded in her ear. Dawn. Matthew, it's okay, child. Old Matthew raised his hand and interrupted the girl's words. I can feel your devotion to the dawn. As long as you have a devout heart, you are a child of the dawn. Curious. Having seen the dawn descend with miracles, why do you still have hesitant feelings? Do you still have any doubts about the dawn? Me the hope to live. I respect him. I love him. I'm willing to follow him for eternity. Matter, child. Old Matthew shook his head, interrupting the girl's following words. Go do it. As long as you have the dawn in your heart, that's enough. Have any questions? Go to the church to find me doubts of the children of the dawn. After saying that, old Matthew walked towards the church. He was about to officially take up his post. Looking at old Matthew's back, the girl's eyes became more determined, and finally, she went out of the city against the flow of people. She walked 4 or 5 miles in a row until Blackwater City behind her disappeared from sight. Only then did the girl breathe a sigh of relief. Reaching out and pulling, the black robe fluttered. A pair of pure white wings actually unfolded behind the girl. The wingspan was 4 or 5 meters, and the wings were full and neat. It seemed that this was the reason why the black-robed girl's figure and appearance were inconsistent. Looking back at Blackwater City again, the girl clasped her hands together, and the words of prayer whispered. After a while, the wings fluttered, bringing up a whistling wind pressure, bending the surrounding weeds. Pieces of pure white feathers fell to the ground, and the girl with wings on her back had already soared into the sky, like a divine white eagle, through the clouds, and flying towards the Great Rift Valley east of Blackwater City. Father, mother, clansmen, I have found the true hope for the girl soaring in the sky. Everyone had a firm and devout face. Believe in the dawn, follow him, love him, take refuge under his holiness. The winged clan will surely be great again. Time, the traces of the cloud-piercing arrow plunged into the Great Rift Valley in the eastern part of Blackwater City. Father, mother, everyone, I'm back. The crisp and excited shouts echoed in the canyon-guarded city lord's mansion with a gloomy face, like an ant in a hot pot. In the quiet city lord's mansion, faint husky roars could be heard, and a fishy smell permeated the air. The ground was also covered with some dark red blood scabs that didn't match his bloated body, and instantly pressed down on the messenger's shoulder. Is there a reply from the royal capital? The messenger dared not delay and hurriedly said, reporting to the deputy city lord, it's from Blackwater City, that you asked us to monitor. Get out. Chieftain Cleveland was furious and slapped him, sending the messenger flying out and smashing the door. Cleveland's eyes were red. What time is it? And speed, you're still interrupting me with such trivial matters. If there's a next time, I'll feed you to my son. The messenger shuddered, his eyes full of fear, and regardless of his severely injured body, he struggled to get up and ran away quickly. Chieftain Lyman, who was sitting on the side, said casually, why are you arguing with him? Wasn't the order to monitor Blackwater City issued by you? Don't worry, this matter concerns the news of the new demon clan. The royal capital will definitely take it seriously. Just wait a little longer. Cleveland glanced at Lyman gloomily. Suddenly someone else walked in cautiously. Deputy City Lord. Speak. The second young master is banging on the door again. and the newly replaced door is about to break. Cleveland took a deep breath, his eyes even more gloomy, and glanced at Lyman already, expressionlessly. Someone, send this assassin into the second young master's room, and go and catch 10 fresh foods for the second young master to prepare. 2 trembling guards walked in from both sides of the city lord's mansion gate, and soon dragged the body on the ground away. Cleveland glanced gloomily at the departing corpse, and then at Lyman. The latter smiled, and took a sip of milk, implying, those who don't have long eyes, kill them well. I don't know if our dear chieftain Cleveland is about to take office as the city lord of Sunderland City, still calling himself deputy city lord. Hearing this, a murderous intent suddenly soared in Cleveland's eyes, but after a long time, it all subsided. City Lord Lyman is joking, it's all unsubstantiated. Don't be humble, old buddy. Lyman scraped the silver spoon, colliding with the cup. You that, after settling in Sunderland City, you will serve as the city lord? When the time comes, I, the old brother, will have to rely on City Lord Cleveland to take care of my territory in Sunderland City. Chapter 32, Burning Heretics, Divine Right of Kings. Old bastard. Cleveland looked at Lyman across from him, who was smiling like a Maitreya Buddha, and had already planned out 10,000 kinds of cruel tortures to torture him to death. But he still sat down and said softly, Lord Lyman has been the city lord of Tree Crown City for so long, and has more experience in this area. When I attended the third prince's private banquet before, the third prince kept saying that you, old brother, managed Tree Crown City well. It's a pity you weren't there at the time, old brother, otherwise you could have heard the third prince's praise for you in person. Hearing this, a trace of ruthlessness flashed in Lyman's eyes, and the movement of scooping with the spoon slowed down. We are all working for the third prince. There is no distinction between you and me. Whoever manages Sunderland City is doing it for His Highness the third prince, isn't it? However, if the third prince really needs it, I can only reluctantly strain my old bones. With so many years of city lord experience, I can't let the third prince down. Cleveland clenched the fist hidden in his sleeve and echoed, the third prince, and I trust your ability, old brother. Who doesn't know that you are the vanguard of our third prince's faction? However, Tree Crown City has encountered such a big mess right now. Old brother, you have to worry about it too, otherwise, it won't look good in front of the third prince. Lyman paused as he scooped with the spoon, then pretended to sigh and said, yes, I hope the reply from the royal capital will be faster. However, old buddy, you have to step up your efforts too. That little bastard is not dead yet. If the third prince asks about it, it will be a problem. Don't let the third prince think we are not doing our job well. Cleveland took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. It will be resolved. After saying that, he stopped talking to Lyman. In fact, he was the most anxious person right now. A few days ago, strange demonic creatures that appeared out of nowhere crossed the defenses and entered the Cleveland family and the Lyman family, killing indiscriminately. Although it was finally resolved, those 10 powerful demons killed hundreds of soldiers and members of the two families. If that were all, he could suppress it and not report it. The real trouble was that the people who were injured or killed by the demons turned into bloodthirsty monsters the next day, and being injured by those monsters would turn you into a new monster. Due to a moment of carelessness, under the snowball effect, many people from both families were infected. Among them, Cleveland's second son also turned into that kind of bloodthirsty monster. As far as Cleveland knew, several of Lyman's children seemed to have turned into those monsters too. However, this guy Lyman was ruthless. He personally killed all the infected members of the Lyman family. He moved into Sunderland City. He would have to find a way to destroy Lyman. Cleveland felt a headache. Just as he was secretly worrying, a messenger ran in a hurry again. Lord City Lord, Deputy City Lord. Cleveland's face darkened. If it's still useless news, I'll take you to feed those things. The messenger trembled in fear and quickly said, it's an urgent report from the royal capital. His Majesty the King attaches great importance to the new type of demon in Tree Crown City and has sent people to the elf forest at full speed for help. In addition, His Majesty the King has also ordered Tree Crown City to be sealed off until the elves arrive. Hearing this, Lyman and Cleveland finally breathed a sigh of relief. Waving his hand to dismiss the messenger, Lyman looked at Cleveland with a smile. Now, old buddy, you can rest assured, right? The elven mages are very good at dealing with this kind of curse. Once they come, your second son will be fine. Cleveland glanced at Lyman. It was rare for this guy to say something human. It was probably because the demon invasion in Tree Crown City was not blamed by the royal capital. Thinking of this, Cleveland's heart sank. The royal capital did not issue blame, probably because the third prince had exerted his influence turbulent, but he still said congratulations on his lips. After a long time, he let people in to clean up the bloodstains. Cleveland suddenly had an idea and looked at Lyman and said, "Old brother, the trouble in Tree Crown City will definitely be solved once the elves arrive. However, can we make some use of those monsters?" Hearing this, Lyman raised his eyebrows. "You mean?" Cleveland smiled sinisterly. "As far as I know, the city defenses of Blackwater City are weak. It's a small city with more than 5,000 people. Such a population density. Once a cursed plague breaks out, that little bastard will probably have a hard time escaping death, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, Lyman clapped his hands and ordered the guards who entered the door, "Clean up those 200 or so monsters in the dungeon, and then grab some lowly people, infect them to make up 500, and send them to Blackwater City. Remember to send them over at night, and keep the operation secret." The express guardslessly accepted the order and left. Lyman laughed heartily and said happily, "You're quick-witted, old brother. I'm really old. In this way, that little bastard will probably never be able to turn over. With your great wisdom, old brother, I think the position of City Lord of Sunderland City must be yours." Cleveland waved his hand and said modestly, "Hey, don't say that, old brother. Everything is up to the third prince's arrangement. Old brother, your awarenesses, in a word, hi. The latest and most complete novels are first published at Dindian Novel Network. Blackwater City Lord's Mansion. Ian, who had taken off the Pope's disguise, became himself again. He collapsed on the sofa, closed his eyes, and enjoyed Resha's head massage. "I'm exhausted after pretending for a whole morning. I have to pay attention to the tone of my speech. The words must be close to the religious dogma, and the behavior must show the majesty of the dawn being. A pope who shows his face is really not a job for humans." Freen teased with a smile, "But I think young Master Ian, you seem to be enjoying pretending. You're enjoying the fanatical cheers of more than 5,000 believers. Each of them is ready to shed blood for young Master Ian and the Dawn Church at any time. Young Master Ian is probably secretly happy, right?" Ian raised his hand and poked Freen's brow, but he didn't refute. Seeing the current devout faith of the citizens of Blackwater City, he was indeed very gratified. But it wasn't because of this point. The main reason was that under the current high degree of faith of the citizens of Blackwater City, the plan to use MC resources to build Blackwater City on a large scale could be put on the agenda. In addition, with the Dawn Church having a solid foundation, he could also plan for expansion. Ian never thought of confining the Dawn Church to Blackwater City alone. Not to mention the grand goals, Ian could take advantage of the great momentum of the Dawn Church after the zombie plague in Tree Crown City had fermented a bit more. Reorganize Tree Crown City and burn the heretics. As for the reaction of the royal capital of the Bilka Principality, Ian didn't care. After settling accounts with these two old things, it would be the Bilka Principality's royal family. He didn't believe that the Forbes family was expelled from Sunderland City without the royal family's involvement. Even if it really wasn't involved, Ian didn't care. The Dawn Church needed a broader soil of faith. If you have to blame someone, blame the Bilka Principality for blocking the way. Solely relying on miracles, although it could gather faith. But the development of the church cannot rely solely on divine manifestations. Thunder and rain are both divine power. Military force is also the foundation of the Holy See. Right of Kings is orthodox. This was the core of the Dawn Church's development that Ian had set. To put it simply in one sentence, if you don't recognize the Dawn as a benevolent heavenly father that I'm telling you about, then I can only let the Iron Golem army talk to you about scriptures and doctrines. While thinking about the large-scale construction of Blackwater City and the expansion of the Dawn Church, Ian suddenly clapped his hands. I almost forgot an important thing. There is a chance that the eggs in the MC world will directly throw out chicks when they are smashed open. Liar. Go and remind the citizens in the afternoon that they shouldn't eat eggs for now, since we have bone meal to catalyze food. Keep them to plan a chicken farm in the city. Liar slightly and said, young Master Ian, are you going to show up and personally throw the eggs? This is also a good opportunity to show the miracle of the dawn creating life. Ian waved his hand and refused. I'm not going. There are enough miracles already, and the faith of the believers in Blackwater City is very devout now. In the future, I will try not to show up in Blackwater City as much as possible to maintain the Pope's prestige. Let's leave this opportunity to pretend to be a big shot to you, the Cardinal. Thanks to a base, Zhang Liang. Serial number, Zimayu Okiming, Book Friend 2020, Nak, Hasek 10, and Book Friend 2022 for the monthly tickets. Thank you to the big shots for the recommended tickets. Thank you all for your support. Thank you very much. Chapter 33 Master, I've done it. Showing off his human nature. The great geneticist Ian Forbes noted it in The Selfish Gene. Today, moreover, facing the Blackwater City citizens who have experienced massive miracles, showing off won't have much effect. According to the stimulus upper limit theory of showing off, even if Ian chopped off the heads of the 7 demon lords and threw them in front of them now, the Blackwater City citizens would probably just shout Dawn God's might and happily prepare for the celebration. Showing off is also about playing the long game. Ian has already planned to prepare for the large-scale construction of Blackwater City, so he can't single-mindedly bring into the MC world for development. Markov and the others will go for training in the afternoon, after recruiting the army. Leah needs everyone to find old Matthew, to arrange the chicken farm, and also survey Blackwater City for Ian, to prepare for the subsequent large-scale construction. So, after lunch, Ian took Leisure and other maids back to the Dawn Holy City under construction in the MC world. He must create the iron farm in the remaining time today. Only by creating the iron farm can the construction of Blackwater City and Dawn Holy City embark on a truly high-speed path. He instructed Leisure and the others to continue farming threads, exchanging emeralds, and trading with villagers' wealth. Where spending money gets rewards anyway. Leisure and the others never get tired of this kind of work that Ian gets bored of after a day. Ian then went to the villager breeding center, took a few high quality biological batteries, and walked towards the boundary of the Dawn Holy City planning area. The construction of the iron farm must not be too close to the village or areas with a large number of villagers and beds gathered. Otherwise, it will affect the birth of iron golems. Ian guessed that the previous failures were all due to this reason. So a few days ago, he specifically moved the location of the villager breeding center to the particularly distant east. Standing on a clearing in the far west, it is already thousands of blocks away from the villager breeding center, which is probably enough. The detailed construction process of the iron farm was already well known before Ian transmigrated. Although the structure is not the same, the principle used is consistent overall. Posing a threat to the villagers makes the villagers feel fear, triggering the code to summon iron golems. An iron golem dies, and a second iron golem is born. So on and so forth. It sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult to do. According to incomplete records, Ian has failed more than a dozen times in the past few days. After reviewing the various reasons for his failure, Ian finally started construction after a while. First, dig a 3x3x7 deep pit and expand a 2x3x3 activities space forward at the bottom of the pit. Place 2 half bricks and a trapdoor at the second grid height in front. Place the bed. The head of the bed must face forward. Then continue to expand 2 grids of space inward. After expanding the space, you have to put a boat in a designated position to ensure that the zombies here will not run around and attack the villagers. Next, dig out the passage, return to the ground, and select the area to plan the generation of iron golems. This step is also a step where Ian always fails. Ian seemed particularly cautious, placing a block and then standing still to think about whether the distance was appropriate. Often in the end, Ian would shake his head and knock off the block, reselecting the area repeatedly, until 2 hours later, a decent looking iron farm was finally completed. But when Ian let the villagers and zombies take their places and saw the iron golem being born on the edge of the generation area, Ian knew that he had failed again. Sighing, Ian was not discouraged. After failing for so many days, he didn't plan to succeed in one fell swoop this time. Build a block on the spot to a sufficient height and take out a bow and arrow to grind the iron golem to death. The hard-working old farmer Ian picked up the shovel and pickaxe again and buried his head in digging. An afternoon passed by in Ian's repeated construction of the iron farm and repeated failures golems from time to time. Until the sun set in the west, Leisure called Ian to eat, and Ian was still being a successful mother. If Ian didn't go out, Leisure and the others were happy to stay in the MC world all the time. Even if it was just simple shopping and exchange work, they enjoyed it. In the Rodri continent, they can't experience the current sturdy physique and magical methods. The latest novels are first published. If Ian didn't repeatedly say something like games and reality can't be confused, Leisure and the others would love to stay in the MC world forever. Although there are many monsters in the MC world, compared to the Roderick continent, it is really a paradise. Looking back at Ian, no one disturbed him, and he wholeheartedly cultivated the iron farm. From the high sun to the setting sun, and then to the silent night, the roars of monsters appeared in the outside wilderness, the dawn holy city. Finally, after failing 4 or 5 times in a row, Ian overturned everything and started over. Running back into the house in the face of Leisure and others' doubtful eyes, after a long time, he ran out excitedly with a notebook in his arms. Ian is still repeating actions that can be described as stereotyped. But this time, Ian has completely abandoned dogmatism. Huge building that was completely different from the standard iron farm. Sister. Leisure. Freen ran to Leisure's side with a notebook in her arms and lowered her voice. I just got close to young Master Ian and listened for a while. Young Master Ian seems to be crazy. He keeps muttering something about reforming, using the past for the present. Speaking, Freen's little face was full of worry. Seeing our Dawn Church prospering, what if something happens to young Master Ian? Leisure straightened her waist and glanced at Ian in the distance with some suspicion. The latter at this time was stacking blocks more than 10 meters high, looking up at the moonlight with his hands behind his back, and faintly could see a pious look on his face, muttering something. Leisure pursed her lips. Wouldn't it? What if? Freen looked serious. Young Master Ian said, it's better to be safe than sorry. Leisure was silent, her eyes flickering, and after a while, she didn't know what she thought of. A delicate pretty face turned red, and her eyes were erratic. Freen, what you said makes sense. Young Master Ian is the last bloodline of the Forbes family. If something happens, the Forbes family will be without descendants, and we will have no face to face the old master. So, Leisure paused, her expression awe-inspiring, revealing a morbid excitement. Wielding the shovel, she said excitedly, while young Master Ian is still energetic. Let me continue the offspring for the great Forbes family. A crazy shout suddenly came from Ian's direction. This shout immediately scared Leisure and she fell. Haha. Teacher, I did it. Chapter 34. 34 Drawing the sword? Exclamation mark. Watching the iron golems below constantly fall, and new ones constantly being created. The dropped flowers and iron ingots flowed along with the water, rushing into the hoppers below, and into the chests. Ian was so happy he almost crowded. This was not just because the troublesome iron farm predicament had been completely solved, but also because Ian had not relied on his previous successful gaming experience. Instead, he used his own understanding of the MC world to build his own iron farm. Although this iron farm was extremely bloated, taking up almost twice the area of the original iron farm, and wasting more than twice the resources. But at least, he figured it out himself. Solving a dilemma with his own wisdom not only brings extreme satisfaction, but also makes one more confident. Even though, to this day, Ian's grasp of basic redstone industrial knowledge is almost completely exhausted. But with the iron farm as a precedent, he may be able to figure out more constructions in the future. While Ian was thinking, he saw 4 or 5 iron golems had already turned into blue smoke and dissipated. The efficiency is still. Iron golems drop 3 to 5 iron ingots and 0 to 2 poppies. Of course, this poppy also has a not so legal original name. Opium poppy moment. Ian climbed out of the iron farm, looked at the maids surrounding him, and ordered, "You've come at the right time. Regia, have people surround this place, and send people over every half day, to take the resources from the chests below." But as soon as he finished speaking, Regia, who would usually react to Ian's orders immediately, did not move. Regia, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "The iron farm is completed," just happy about it composure, and said with a hint of surprise, "Young Master Ian, does that mean we can now get a steady stream of iron ore without mining? Or is it the incredibly magical and excellent iron ore of the MC world?" Ian slightly. "Of course, but the efficiency is not very high now. It just so happens that you are here, so pack up your things, and let's build a few more iron farms tonight. In the future, we will never have to worry about iron ore again. The more iron farms, the better." Ian's vision has never been limited to Dawn Holy City and Blackwater City Point in the future. Whether it is the MC world or the Rodri continent, it must continue to expand, point, build, and conquer more cities and regions. Ian is also thinking about building a few iron farms wherever he goes in the MC world in the future, point. At the very least, every village he finds during the wasteland period must have a few iron farms commanding the maids to bring tools and villagers. Ian led them along the previously mined tunnel to the mining area outside the village under the cover of night. With the experience of the first success, the rest of the matter is much simpler. In short, it is just copy and paste. Overnight, Ian took Regia and the others to build 2 more iron farms in the mountain area, and 1 iron farm on the edge of the jungle. On the plain, another iron farm was built. All in all, 5 were built, which, for the time being, should be enough for a long time in the early stage, point. Ian also did not hide this technology, and handed it all over to Regia and the others. After a night of practice, if Regia and the others are more careful, they can also independently make fatigue iron farms. These iron farms outside the city have underground tunnels dug to connect with Dawn Holy City to ensure convenient, safe, and efficient resource collection. After doing all this, dawn broke. Phantoms, but they will only be born at night after 3 days of not sleeping, point. Not a big problem, point. Besides, even if the phantoms really come out, Ian will be happy, point. The phantom membrane that this thing drops is a good thing. Not only can it be used to repair elytra, but it can also be used to brew slow falling potions. It is also a material with a large demand in the mid to late stages. Ian plans to let Markov stay up at that time, point. That guy is full of energy and doesn't want to sleep in the MC world. Just right. The job of cleaning up phantoms suits him very well. As the Pope, Ian is most optimistic about these employees who actively request overtime, collecting the harvest from the iron farm overnight, and making a few stone generators to save resources for the construction of Blackwater City in the future. Finally, Ian took Regia and the others back to the Rodri continent with reluctance towards the MC world. The latest novels are first published on Zushawan.com. Generally speaking, Ian still likes to go back to the Rodri continent to sleep. Sleeping in the MC world is good, but you can't dream. Ian has been deeply involved in the MC world during this period. He hasn't had the beautiful dream of stepping on the 7 deadly demon kings, embracing left and right, reaching the top of the Rodri continent, and countless believers bowing down at his wave of his hand for a long time. Back to the Lord's mansion bedroom. Ian drove Regia, who was acting coy, and whose words and thoughts were particularly irregular, out of the bedroom again. He glanced at the sky and was surprised to find that the outside was covered with dark clouds and muffled thunder, but no raindrops had fallen yet. The drought has lasted for a long time, and Ian felt that maybe God was going to show mercy and end the drought. But this has little to do with Blackwater City. Whether it rains or not, Blackwater City has endless water to use. Now the people of Blackwater City don't rely on the sky or the earth. They only rely on the Dawn God sect. Ian could just take advantage of this natural white noise to have a good dream. Lying on the bed, Ian subconsciously glanced at the MC world gate that was emitting faint spots of light. He just remembered that this thing could receive rewards. He was really too busy during this time. He got up with a carp jump, quickly approached it, and stretched out his hand to stick it on the edge of the square bedrock doorframe. Ian closed his eyes, but a projection similar to the character backpack panel appeared in front of him. Unsurprisingly, the progress bar of the phase construction had already far exceeded the new coma mark. Now, it is only 1/3 away from reaching the fame start stage. Ian shook his head helplessly. His own MC World Gate is good in every way, but there is one thing. This thing is not like a system. It is rigidly fatal, and even the rewards will not be directly sent to his account with a ding sound point. You still have to go through the process and receive it yourself. However, this can also be regarded as a little fun, which is quite participatory and fulfilling. Ian didn't have much hope for this so-called first stage reward. This is not a newbie gift bag. It is just the stage reward of the most basic stage. Besides, the newbie gift bag gave Steve's physique, and the reward that Steve's physique can be partially unlocked in the Rodri continent. This is already strong enough. At present, if the 7 deadly demon kings don't come out, Ian can easily protect himself. With the resources of the MC world, he can fight a division of knights with less strength. As for this reward, Ian felt that at most it would continue to unlock a part of Steve's physique's usage rights in the Rodri continent. But when he saw the gorgeous scabbard and katana crossed pattern, Ian realized his own MC World Gate golden finger is so generous that it is unimaginable. The sleepiness was swept away, and Ian even pinched himself in disbelief until he was sure that he was not mistaken. Reja was waiting outside the door for Ian's call. After a muffled sound of an object hitting the floor, I heard a cheer that was even more frantic than Ian making the iron farm before. The Irito sword. Your Holiness, I'm rich. Reja's eyes sharpened, and she instantly turned her head to stare at the bedroom door. Young Master Ian is crazy again. The next moment, Reja lifted her skirt, and a crazy smile appeared on her face again. A backhand single slammed open the bedroom door. Young Master Ian, I'm coming. Let me conceive a new generation of hope for the great god of dawn. Thanks to the reward from the 8 Extremes Heaven boss. For the recommendation tickets, you for your support and comments. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. 35 Yama Sword is Faith. Leisha. That's not how you use that phrase. But, young Master Ian, get out. Alright. If you change your mind, be sure to call me. Get out. After sending away Leisha, who looked regretful, Ian sighed deeply. Other people's nuns become more and more holy as they serve, always maintaining purity for the gods. Leisha becomes more and more like a lustful woman. He has to give these nuns a course on ideology and morality someday. Re-examining the rewards, Ian felt that his own MC World Gate was more and more pleasing to the eye. This time stage rewards are beyond generous. In addition to the Batao sword, there are many additional rewards. For example, in the Rodri continent, Steve's physique is unsealed to 1/5. For example, a teleport point that can be placed anywhere in the MC world, no matter how far you run. As long as you are in the same dimension, you can teleport back directly. The former makes Ian safer in the Rodri continent, and his self-protection ability soars. The latter two have irreplaceable effects on Ian's subsequent plans for the MC World expedition and exploration. It can be regarded as solving Ian's biggest troubles. However, compared to the Batao sword mod, which is almost equivalent to a golden legend in Ian's eyes, these rewards are not worth mentioning. Mod. Batao sword a symbolic mod that has almost run through the history of the MC world. With the advancement of the times, the Batao sword seems to have become the tears of the old era. In terms of diversity, it is not as good as the magic metal mod. In terms of convenience, it is not as good as the equivalent exchange mod. In terms of power, it is even more different from the omnidominant sword, which is a one-hit kill, in the endless greed mod. After the passage of time, the Batao sword mod, which was once a sweetheart, has become an aging madam. But no matter how good these mods are, for Ian, it is precisely because of the Batao sword mod that he was able to keep playing in the past. The Batao sword is always the white moonlight of the blockheads. If you have to rank all the mods, the Batao sword is definitely in the top 3 in Ian's heart. all kinds of cattiness, all kinds of skills honing time after time, just to pursue the highest damage skill output point compared with many subsequent mods. The destructive power of the Battle Sword is not considered strong point, but putting it in the current stage, Ian feels that no mod is more suitable than the Battle Sword point. Whether it is for Ian or Lael and the others, the Battle Sword is a mod that can quickly improve their strength in a short period of time point. Besides, although the Battle Sword is not as good as the weapon damage of the Endless Greed mod, this thing is large and satisfying. As long as you take the Battle Sword, you will immediately transform into a powerful and awesome knight. Various sword skills can be played out. In the future, attack the demons and conquer the major kingdoms, forming an army of Battle Swords, starting with Dimensional Slash and Phantom Sword. 10,000 swords fired together. Isn't this power no weaker than a forbidden curse? Ian is already satisfied enough to have the unexpected surprise of the Battle Sword mod point. Omen gave a lot this time, and Ian couldn't help but look forward to the next stage reward. It's just that what is bothering him now is, before time traveling, he hadn't touched the Battle Sword mod for 3 or 4 years, and Ian had forgotten a lot of the details. The most important thing is that many powerful swords of the Battle Sword are linked to other mods, such as Twilight Forest, The Last Katana Craftsman, and so on. Now only the Battle Sword is loaded. Without linked mods, many Battle Swords can't be made at all. After pondering for a long time, Ian still happily accepted this result point. If he forgets the skills, he can restudy them. If there are no linked mods, the main body is enough for the time being. Not to mention anything else. The broken Yamato dropped by the Ender Dragon, after being upgraded to the Demon Sword Yamato. That is the strongest Battle Sword without additional mods. Its built-in passive abilities and skills can be considered artifacts in the Rodri continent. By then, the entire Shianji dragon slaying cannon and Yamato can also be mass-produced by Ian, without even having time to be happy about the soaring power. After Steve's physique was unsealed, Ian sat on the bed. The original sleepiness had already been swept away. Now that he has the Battle Sword, he should also think about the MC World expedition. Not to mention anything else, the Nether and the End must be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Ian couldn't wait to get his first Demon Sword Yamato. But thinking about it carefully, this plan is not realistic now. Blackwater City and the Dawn God sect are booming, and Ian can't just leave them alone and run to the End to slay the dragon. If Lael and the others can't find Ian, they will go crazy. But to say to bring them a bunch of half-baked guys, if they see the Ender Dragon, they will probably lose half their lives. Especially that mindless Markov. Ian inexplicably had a sense of picture. Arriving at the end, Markov stared at the Enderman with wide eyes, and opened his mouth to say, "What are you looking at next? Just wait to be ganged up on. You have to walk step by step, and eat bite by bite. First make a few Battle Swords to get your hands on, and prepare to go to the Nether to farm monsters. Simply make 2 monster spawn towers for pigmen and blazes, and gather gold to make golden apples. The blazes materials are stored to make potions. If you can't make the Yamato in a short time, it's okay to make some Utachi to transition. In the case of no mods, the damage of the Utachi is actually not much different from the Yamato. As for why Ian is still obsessed with pursuing the Yamato is faith. With a whoosh, Ian stood up again and strode towards the MC World gate. Why sleep long before death? You will sleep long after death. Just do it. Loudly proclaiming the oath, Ian disappeared into the MC World gate. A moment later, the bedroom door was slammed open again with a bang. Young Master Ian, I'm here. Leisha lifted her skirt and excitedly looked around the bedroom. It wasn't until she noticed the frequent flashes of light from the MC World gate that she realized Ian had drilled into the MC World again. The excitement was swept away in thundery weather. The aura revealed by Leisha all over her body seemed even more like a resentful woman. It's finally raining. The clamor also came from outside the window. Getting up and walking to the window, looking at the people below standing in the rain and respectfully cheering, all opening their arms to enjoy the long-lost baptism of sweet rain. After a long time, Leisha curled her lips. These what Dawn be praised. It's clearly young Master Ian who is blessing us. Believers are not pious at all. Young Master Ian has shown so many miracles, but they still don't know who is the real Dawn. A bunch of idiots. raising her hand and pressing it on the glass. This sudden rain seemed a bit chilling. Under the thunder and lightning, the noisy people finally remembered to take shelter from the rain, but they flocked to the Dawn Church in the center of the city to take shelter from the rain. Before long, the low prayers from the distant Dawn Church spread to the city lord's mansion. The entire Blackwater city seemed to be covered with a layer of pious and loyal holy light. A little bit of satisfaction finally appeared on Lacia's face. This rain is getting heavier and heavier. Chapter 36. Use sword draws not to kill an unknown person. Regarding the Battle sword, the settings are actually quite complex. Different swords have different sword skills. For example, Phantom Blade and Dimension Slash are the two most famous. These two sword skills are collectively known as SA sword skills. In addition to SA, there are also basic sword skills, similar to IAI Slash. The Battle sword itself also has different states, such as intact, broken, sealed, unsheathed, and so on. In addition, there is the forging of the sword and the enchantment of the sword. Which sword is the prerequisite state of which sword, and what conditions need to be met to upgrade, kill count, honor value, inheritance, and so on. It sounds complicated, but in practice, it's not simple either. However, Ian doesn't want to think about these things for the time being. He just wants to get a Battle sword to play with now nameless sword puppet. There is no difficulty in synthesizing this thing. Just 2 pieces of wood and a wooden sword will generate it. But because of this, the damage of this nameless sword puppet is also quite merciful. But in short, this sword also allows Ian to officially enter the threshold of swordsman. Hanging the nameless sword puppet on the left side of his waist, holding the hilt. The next moment, at the instant of drawing the sword, Ian's figure was driven, and he rushed out him, accompanied by a burst of sword energy fluctuations. Ian successfully gave a tree a shave. Swift draw IAI. At this time, Ian turned his back to the bare tree trunk, with the posture of a lonely master, and slowly slid the sword back into its sheath. Ian's sword does not kill the unknown. Saying that, Ian turned around and took out a sign, wrote a few words on it, and then inserted the sign in front of the tree. Then he swung his axe to clear the tree trunk and walked towards the mine with a few of wood, leaving behind a yellow dirt block that was out of place with the surrounding green pieces grassland, and a sign that read no littering as the easiest Battle sword to obtain. The nameless sword puppet, apart from allowing Ian to personally experience the identity of a top swordsman basically, it is no different from being useless. But don't underestimate the nameless sword puppet point, although this thing doesn't do much damage. Its durability is also low. Of course, Ian is not satirizing the nameless sword puppet. This is really a compliment. After the durability of the Battle sword is used up, it will explode with Yeo souls. This thing is closely related to the upgrade of the Battle sword and the creation of a more powerful Battle sword. Scurried around, looking for wild monsters, to farm for more than 2 hours. He has already accumulated a lot of Yeo soul fragments. After sorting out the harvest, Ian ran back to Dawn Holy City happily, ready to upgrade the Battle sword. Puppet is best used to make the sharp sword white sheath point. There is no other reason. Compared to the upgrade direction of the nameless sword bamboo light, the white sheath has higher durability point compared to the upgrade direction of wooden sword ironwood. It does not require the use of precious Yeo soul orbs and ender eyes. To upgrade puppet to white sheath, you only need a puppet, 2 iron ingots, and a piece of gold. Although Ian has not been to the nether, and has no gold, he has gained something from mining in the mine. It is not a problem to take out these resources. Throwing it into the workbench, and arranging it in order, take out the freshly baked white sheath. This time, Ian doesn't plan to use up the durability directly point without the linkage module. The white sheath has only one upgrade direction, a great sword with pure numerical damage comparable to the Yamato. This great sword is already a quite powerful Battle sword point. At least it has the SAS skill of dimension slash point. If you want to try other sword skills, the great sword can also synthesize the Thousand Moon sword Miramasa, and the Not Moon sword Tsukumo great sword is also very high. The white sheath needs to be broken, a blaze rod, a Yeo soul orb, a lapis lazuli block, a coal block, a string, and a gold ingot. This means that Ian must go to the nether resources calculating the time. It should be time to start exploring the nether now. Ian has also been thinking about the gold of the piglins for a long time. Although it is useless in the MC world, the road continent likes this thing very much. Open the nether gate. Promote long-term friendly cross-border trade exchanges with the piglin tribe. Maintain the multilateral trading system. And build a community of destiny for block people and piglins. The economic expenditure problem of the Dawn Church will also be solved. If there are no accidents, Ian will use the crafted greatsword for a long time, so we must consider the inheritance of the Bathow sword. Therefore, it is best to accumulate various values in the white sheath stage. After all, the repair of the new white sheath is also very simple. You can use iron ingots. Grabbing the baked white sheath, Ian casually performed a sword flourish. After traveling for so many years, Old Falcourt is still a super awesome knight, and naturally taught Ian a lot of swordsmanship. However, Ian doesn't have much talent for martial arts, not even as good as Harlan. But Ian still feels that fate has secretly determined a fair gift. So what if Ian is not good at chivalry? Steve's physique bonus, MC equipment wearing, and Bathow sword in hand. Playing the style of vigorously flying bricks. Super awesome knight. Can he eat a few big slaps of repentance from His Holiness the Pope? After playing with the white sheath for a while, Ian took out a pile of emeralds and went arts to the tool merchant. During this period of time, he has been busy supporting the fisherman, the arrow maker, and the librarian, and he has rarely patronized the weapon merchant, the merchant armor, and the tool merchant. Now is the time to patronize them. First support the tool merchant, exchange for a diamond pickaxe, and go straight to the mine to dig obsidian and build the nether portal. If there is nothing to do today, I will wholeheartedly study the Bathow sword. When Lael and Markov come back to the MC world, after they are almost done with their work in the afternoon, Ian estimates that he will be able to figure out 70% to 80% of the Bathow sword. Then take them to brush the Bathow sword, and also give Lael and them some intensity point with the strength of Lael and Markov, plus the powerful sword skills and damage of the Bathow sword. It is estimated that Lael should be able to reach the level of a super invincible awesome knight, including armor enchantment, etc. And then bring a Yamato, that's our awesome Bathow sword old buddy. At that time, with Leia sitting in Blackwater City, no one in the territory of the Duchy of Bilka can cross Blackwater City. Ian can safely do what he wants to do while thinking, while brushing the level of the tool merchant. It didn't take long to get the diamond pickaxe. The enchantment is very ordinary, only a level 1. But Ian doesn't dislike it, and uses it as is. When he finds time to brush the tool merchant to the master level in the future, there will be good enchantments bringing the durability diamond pickaxe, and making a few more puppets. Ian left a sign stating where he went, and where to find him in case of emergency. Immediately, he strode towards the mine outside Dawn Holy City. However, before he walked out of the Dawn Holy City area, hurried footsteps came from behind. Young Master Ian. Freya waved her hand excitedly and shouted, "Young Master Ian, wait." Ian was a little puzzled. When Freya ran over, Ian patted her back gently to help her catch her breath. "What's wrong? So anxious?" "Young Master Ian, something happened." Freya was anxious and panting. "The Abyss, demons." The Abyss appeared in the eastern Rift Valley of Blackwater City, and it is accompanied by a large number of demons. The winged people under the eastern Rift Valley of Blackwater City were attacked, and are in danger. The winged people are here to ask for help. Thanks to the monthly ticket from the big boss of listening to the heart in the city. Thanks to the monthly ticket from the big boss of the author's female costume for SSR. Thank you for the recommendation tickets from all the big bosses. Thank you for your support. Chapter 37. The appearance of the Abyss demons. Inside the city lord's mansion, Regia poured a cup of tea for the winged girl, who was sitting nervously on the sofa, glancing anxiously at the pouring rain outside the window. The little girl was quite polite, even in her anxiety. She took the cup with both hands, and said thank you. Regia returned to her seat on the other side, observing the restless winged girl from a distance. Smooth, and upon closer inspection, seemed to radiate a comforting light. Pretty cool. This was Regia's first time seeing a real winged person, but she had heard of them many times. More than a decade ago, the Winged People were a well-known anti-demon vanguard in the 100 Clans Alliance. Due to their high mobility and ability to see the ground clearly from thousands of meters in the air, the Winged People were known as natural scouts. They made many great achievements in the anti-demon war. Although they couldn't compare to the elves and other major clans, they were still an elite group with a good reputation. Many people on the road continent often confuse the Winged People with the Birdmen of the Beastmen race. In fact, there were quite a few differences between the two. The Birdmen of the Beastmen race included eaglemen, crowmen, vulturemen. The simplest distinction was that the Birdmen had wings of different sizes, colors, and shapes. Moreover, their wings were not as special as those of the Winged People. The Winged People were very magical. Generally speaking, they didn't get stained with dust or wet in the rain. This allowed the Winged People to soar through the sky even in heavy rain. Winged person's soul fell, and evil thoughts arose. Their white feathers would instantly turn pure black. This phenomenon was called fallen wings. However, fallen wings had only occurred once in the history of the Winged People of the prideful king, Oreganos. The Winged People sent out 5,000 outposts. After a few days, they sent word that the plan was feasible. The 100 Clans Alliance's million-strong army crossed the abyss and marched towards their destination, but as soon as they crossed the abyss, they were surrounded by the Mind Flayer army. Giants, beastmen, and other major clans suffered heavy losses. As a result, the Eastern Front completely collapsed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Mind Flayer army moved west out of the abyss, advancing all the way to the Monster Mountains, nearly breaking through the 100 Clans Alliance's defense line. In the end, the Dragon Clan leader and the previous Elf Clan leader sacrificed their lives to barely hold on until reinforcement arrived from other fronts. The root cause of that defeat, which nearly cost the 100 Clans Alliance their lives, was the collective fallen wings of the 5,000 winged scouts. At a critical moment, they defected to the demons and put on a good show in cooperation with the Mind Flayer army. Although the Winged People tried their best to argue that the collective fallen wings of the 5,000 Winged People must have been related to Oreganos, the furious clans would not listen to such explanations. Since then, the Winged Scouts were stripped of their status, and the entire clan was ostracized. The Winged People were unwilling to accept this, and took the initiative to go to the most dangerous front lines to prove themselves, but because of that incident, no one was willing to cooperate with them. The dwarves were also severely damaged and refused to continue providing the Winged People with bows and arrows. As a result, after the end of the Fourth Anti-Demon War, the Winged People, who originally numbered hundreds of thousands, were left with less than 5,000 and disappeared from the road continent due to being ostracized by the 100 Clans Alliance. Now, their appearance in Blackwater City was reasonable. Blackwater City was the closest area to the abyss. In other words, it was very far from heaven and very close to the demons here. Waiting for the day to prove themselves was also reasonable. But now it seemed they almost didn't have this chance. Regia had no malice towards the Winged People. Old man Forbes Indian had always told her, "You can't kill a good person for making a mistake once, nor can you forgive a sinner for doing a good deed once." More importantly, Regia didn't care. Be better if they didn't come, but if they dared to come, Regia believed that her omnipotent Lordian of the Dawn would teach these demons what it meant to be good neighbors. "Sister Regia, please add some tea for Miss Hania." Suddenly, Lael's voice interrupted Regia's thoughts. Looking up, she saw that this winged girl was really anxious. She gulped down the scalding tea, her little mouth turning red, but she still didn't care, glancing from time to time in the direction Freya had left. No, don't bother Sister Regia, I'm not thirsty." The winged girl, Hania, waved her hands repeatedly, and then said, "Archbishop Lael, when will His Holiness the Pope arrive?" Lael's eyes flashed, and he comforted her. "Don't worry, he should be here soon." Hania nodded, but she was still restless. It had been more than half an hour since she escaped to ask for help, and she didn't know what was happening back at the clan miss. "Hania, you seem to know a lot about our Dawn Church, perhaps." To alleviate Hania's anxiety, Regia sat over and spoke softly. "Miracles performed by the Dawn Church and His Holiness the Pope time and time again. Witnessing the great dawn bestow mercy, witnessing the poor citizens of Blackwater City living a good life under the light of the dawn. I'm also a devout believer in the dawn." Like others, I firmly believe that only the Great Dawn can drive out the demons and bring hope. It's just that I haven't been accepted yet. Speaking of this, Hania paused and then quickly waved her hands. Sorry, I didn't deliberately hide my identity and shamelessly seek the blessings of the dawn. It's just, Bishop Lael, you should know the reputation of our winged people. Lael raised his hand to interrupt Hania and said softly, it doesn't matter, the dawn will not blame you. Believing in the dawn means being his child. Fame, wealth, power, the dawn doesn't care. He can see your piety. Thank you, Bishop Lael. Hania wiped the corners of her eyes with emotion, and then said, after witnessing the miracle yesterday, I was enlightened by Father Matthew, and rushed back to the clan, hoping to bring in the clan to follow the dawn. We originally planned to come together today, but the abyss suddenly speaking of this, Hania became anxious again, and small pearls were brewing in her eyes. Don't panic. Miss Hania firmly believe that, as long as the dawn is here, and His Holiness the Pope is here, the sky will not fall. Yes, Sister Asia. As soon as she finished speaking, hurried and steady footsteps came from the stairs. His Holiness the Pope has arrived. Freya took the lead in walking down, shouting loudly. In an instant, the high-level members of the entire Dawn Church in the room stood up and placed one hand on their chest. In front of outsiders, the Pope's face was related to the Dawn Church's prestige. This kind of ritual could not be broken. Of course, the effect was also very useful. After seeing the familiar corner of the Pope's mitre in gold and white, and feeling Ian's aura slowly approaching, this kind of emotion of being in close contact with the Supreme Pope of the Dawn Church, and the sense of security that instantly settled in her heart. Suddenly, Hania couldn't hold back anymore, and small pearls fell down in strings. She rushed to Ian in 3 steps, and fell to the ground, wailing like a child. Your Holiness the Pope, please save the winged people. Lael also quickly stepped forward, and whispered the situation of the winged people to Ian in a concise manner. One of us. Ian's face became even more gentle, and he raised his hand to help Hania up. I understand your intention. Protecting every child of the dawn is also please my duty. Now, calm down and tell me in detail about the current situation. The number, types, and commanding officer of the demons, as well as the terrain of the Eastern Rift Valley area. Ian stretched out his hand and pressed it on Hania's shoulder, his eyes gentle and full of divinity. For some reason, being stared at by this kind of gaze, all of Hania's anxiety vanished in an instant. Don't be afraid, the dawn is always here. Chapter 38, The Dawn Church needs a great victory. Years later, Hania, already a figure of historical significance on the continent, stated during an invited celebrity interview, when I first met my lord, the God King of Dawn, in the Blackwater City Lord's mansion, he told me that the dawn had always been present. It was then that I understood. God is not in heaven, God is before our eyes. Sitting in the reception room, the tea set on the table was removed and replaced with a crudely hand-drawn map. Our winged clan this time are demons emerging from this small abyss. Hania pointed to a spot marked with an X on the map and quickly said, estimates suggest that over 10,000 demons have emerged from this abyss, mostly undead legions, and demonized magical beasts. Among them, there are also small elite units composed of mind flayers, numbering around 1,000. The leading demon has not shown itself, but it is definitely a mind flayer. Markov scratched his head, puzzled. Why mind flayers? Aren't there more undead legions? Liel glared at Markov silently. If there weren't outsiders present, he would have smacked Markov's head. He wanted to ask him if he had learned the complete compendium of demon races with his butt, dragging it out. After calming down, Liel explained, although the Undead Legion is the main force under Lautner, the Gluttony Demon Lord, its vast numbers and ease of creation make it a basic army among demons. The 7 Sin Demon Lords all have Undead Legions to some extent. Only when we see advanced units like Undead Bone Dragons can we confirm that this demon belongs to Lautner, the Gluttony Demon Lord. Conversely, if a large number of mind flayers appear in this demon army, then it must be a squad from Oreganos, the Pride Demon Lord. Markov subconsciously wanted to get to the bottom of things, but Hania preemptively took over the conversation. Her tone carried a hint of deep-seated hatred. It's definitely mind flayers. There's no mistake. It could be said that the Winged Clan was destroyed by Dragonesses, the Pride Demon Lord. If you were to ask who on the entire continent has studied mind flayers the most, it would definitely be the Winged Clan to Dragonesses, the Pride Demon Lord, and naturally inherit Dragonesses' nature, extreme arrogance. Armies, only mind flayers absolutely forbid other races from serving as officers. Their arrogance makes them despise all races except mind flayers. If there are mind flayers in this composite demon army, then their commander must be a powerful mind flayer mage. Ian slightly and said softly, hey, Mihira is right. In a mind flayer army, only mind flayers can be commanders. Otherwise, no matter how powerful a demon is, it won't be able to control the internal strife of the mind flayer legion. This was also something old Forbes had taught Ian. Ian's understanding of the major demon races was no weaker than Leel's. Tens of thousands of undead legions and demonized magical beasts, plus 1,000 mind flayer mages and warriors. Leel's eyes showed a hint of gravity. This is already a very terrifying small demon force. The undead legion is easy to deal with, a few thousand people can handle it. The problem is the demonized magical beasts and mind flayers. Normally, it would take at least 10 times the force to annihilate them, but if it's just to suppress them back into the abyss, only about 20,000 people would be needed. But Leel looked at Ian worriedly. Given the current situation of the Forbes family, even if they asked the royal capital for help, it was uncertain if they would arrive in time. The royal capital might even be hoping that the demons would destroy them. If they didn't ask for help, then Ian and the 20 of them would have to face it together. The current church troops in Blackwater City would just be sending food. Ian naturally knew Leel's worries, but this battle had to be fought, and they couldn't ask for help virtues. Currently, the Dawn Church already had faith. What remained was to prove the might of the Dawn. Only by defeating this demon army could the Dawn Church truly take root firmly in the Roderick continent. Moreover, the doctrine sounded good, saying that the Dawn would not abandon any child. If they retreated at the sight of demons, what kind of religion would they be spreading? Fighting was a must, and Ian was aiming to annihilate the entire demon army. In Ian's heart, he was actually very confident in this war. It seemed like a fantasy to annihilate tens of thousands of demons with 20 people, but wasn't the essence of the MC world turning the impossible into the possible? Having developed in the MC world for more than half a month, it was time to test the results. War is about winning with unconventional tactics. Is there any army in the world more unconventional than the MC army? Your Holiness. Leel whispered Ian's name carrying a confident and gentle smile, which made Hania feel even more at ease. Pack your things, we are preparing to set off. Thank you. Thank you, Your Holiness. The Winged Clan is willing to forever follow the Great Dawn. Hania knelt down excitedly. Ian helped her up and said softly, wait a moment, I'll go ask the Dawn to bestow divine power to annihilate the enemy. After saying that, he glanced at Leel and the others understood and followed Ian upstairs. Silently entering the MC world, Leel immediately said urgently, young Master Ian, the church troops currently only total 1,300 people, and they've only been trained for a day. They have no ability to fight this war. I understand. Ian went to his wooden house to retrieve you guessed right. Ian looked at Leel with a smile. Published here. Young Master Ian, what are you thinking? Ian shook his head and said softly, don't worry, I won't harm you. I'll also participate in the war. Nonsense. This is simply nonsense. Leel stood in front of Ian, his neck stiff and his face flushed. How can you participate in the war, young Master Ian? If something happens to you, how will I face the old master? How will the Forbes family continue? Yes, young Master Ian, at worst, a few of us will go and carry out a decapitation strike. You must not participate in the war. Markov also looked at Ian worriedly. The latter sighed softly. This battle must be fought. It's being fought for the believers, for the people of the world to see. We must let the believers know that the divine power of the Dawn is endless. It can allow them to live a good life and also demonstrate the power to purge demons with thunder, easily leveling the demon race. The Dawn Church now needs a victory. If we don't fight and retreat directly, all the previous efforts of the Dawn Church will be greatly discounted. Leel was somewhat dazed. Ian comforted, don't worry, I never do anything I'm not sure of. With the support of the MC world, we can't lose. Just listen to my command then. I'll lead you to create a great miracle that no one will dare to believe if you tell them. Leel didn't speak. After a long while, he looked at Rezha and the others again to persuade young Master Ian. No need. Rezha raised her head with a smile, her face firm. I believe young Master Ian. If he says it's possible, then it must be possible. You're also joining in the nonsense. This isn't nonsense. Butler Leel, think carefully. How many impossibilities has young Master Ian accomplished during this period? Rezha said plausibly. The great dawn heaven has appeared. Endless water sources, crops that mature instantly, a constant stream of minerals. So many impossibilities have been realized. Why is it impossible for a dozen people to annihilate the demon race? In your heart, is that group of lowly demons stronger than the great dawn? After saying that, Rezha quickly walked to Ian's side. Young Master Ian, they're already at the master level. Very good. Ian walked to the side of the weapon merchant and armor merchant with a smile, making the final preparations. To borrow a saying from my hometown Point, the path to salvation lies within Point plus all the resources accumulated over so many days. To strike unexpectedly, Ian will make the demons understand from the bottom of their hearts the meaning of the phrase the sea of bitterness is boundless. Turn back and the shore is at hand. Point. Thank you to book friend 2024 for the monthly ticket. Thank you to all the big guys for the recommendation tickets. Chapter 39. Thunderstorms rage, wipe out demons with a blade. Since entering the world of MC, how many good things has Ian accumulated? To be honest, even Ian himself wasn't sure. Without a careful inventory. He did spend more than half a month without going to the nether or the end, which he should have explored long ago. But that doesn't mean Ian did nothing. Once the production line starts, its speed of acquiring resources is second only to directly taking items in creative mode. 5 or more mob grinders are running at full capacity, using string to exchange for emeralds. Even later, when trading with the fisherman and Fletcher, it would take at least a stack of string to exchange for 1 emerald. But Ian has a production line, so it doesn't matter. The emeralds accumulated for more than half a month were used to quickly level up the weaponsmith and armor at a master level. Exchanging for enchanted diamond equipment this way is much more efficient than mining. Although it's unrealistic to exchange for a full set of enchanted armor diamond for everyone, it's easy to get everyone an enchanted diamond sword and an enchanted iron armor set. Coupled with the large number of bows and special arrows produced by the Fletcher during this time, as well as the gunpowder saved, and the enchanted books kept for emergencies. In Ian's words, you can always trust the ability of the MC world to create legends. Are guaranteed win. What's wrong with 20 people blocking over 10,000 demons? This was still a sudden event, and Ian wasn't prepared. If Ian had a day to prepare, to put it bluntly, killing over 10,000 demons would be easier than killing 10,000 pigs in the MC world. A perfect diamond enchanted set, a katana, and the blessing of Steve's physique. Unless it's a demon lord of the 7 deadly sins, they are not qualified to make him draw his sword. Ian, who was working at full speed, was moving so fast that after images almost appeared. One moment he was standing in front of the anvil, his hands as nimble as butterflies flitting through flowers, the crisp sound of iron clanging non-stop. The next moment he was muttering in front of the crafting table, as if he was possessed. Then he would run to the villagers of various professions and stand still, like an old monk in meditation. The whole set of operations was flashy, dazzling, and completely incomprehensible as to what Ian was doing. Only Ian knew that he was feeling the pain. The resources accumulated for more than half a month. Emeralds, iron ingots, enchanted books, gunpowder. Now, they have all been exchanged for tangible weapons and strength. This battle has exhausted Ian's savings. But the good news is that, except for gunpowder, the rest are basically exchanged for emeralds. For Ian, whose production line foundation is already solid, emeralds are as many as he wants, will be even more resources than before. Speaking of which, Ian couldn't help but feel a little regret. If he had done an experiment earlier to determine whether certain multi-block structure specific bug features in the MC world could be used on the Rodri continent. This time, why would he have to go through so much trouble and consume so many resources? Starting with a TNT duplicator and a redstone bomber, he could give the demons a good meal, saving time, effort, and resources. After this battle, some specific multi-block structures must be experimented with on the Rodri continent as soon as possible. What seemed like a long time was actually only a few minutes, and Ian had already prepared the equipment and resources needed for this battle. After all, before becoming a half-baked production line player, Ian was first and foremost a speedrunning master. He'd have lived in vain if he needed to look at the crafting recipe for a non-modular combination. Taking a deep breath, Ian sorted all the resources into categories and placed them in the boxes on the ground. From now until the end of the battle, I only have one requirement for you. Do whatever I say. Can you do it? Yes. Young Master Ian. Leisha and the others nodded eagerly in agreement, and Lyle sighed and nodded helplessly. Very good. We will definitely win. Ian smiled reassuringly and quickly began to arrange for everyone to distribute combat resources. This time, Ian really bled a lot enchanted bows and arrows among them. The infinity and flame enchanted ones were fine, as the Fletcher had produced a lot of them, but the 5 power V fully enchanted bows were the ones that Ian felt most sorry for. Potion arrows. This was already all his, but with the power of the enchanted bows, coupled with the power of the instant damage arrows, even a mind flayer leader as powerful as a super invincible knight would die instantly if hit by one. In addition, there was a batch of unenchanted bows and arrows, which were reserved for the Winged Clan. Ian was taking the Dawn Church to support them, and the Winged Clan had to contribute as well. If they were useless, Ian wouldn't save them. However, due to the weight of the MC bows and arrows, it was estimated that very few people could use this batch of bows and arrows. Only the elite of the Winged Clan could pick them up. Emptying his savings was simply born entirely for this war to annihilate the demons. Flame and infinity, combined with other ordinary bows and arrows for long-range clearing. The strongest 5 power V bows and arrows, combined with potion arrows, would catch the mind flayers and pick them off one by one. 19 diamond swords, all with fully enchanted smite V, facing the massive undead army. Wasn't that like a match made in heaven? A guaranteed win. Hanging his white scabbard on his waist, Ian wanted to see if the katana could accumulate kills on the Roderick continent this time. Seeing that Ian was ready to set off immediately, Leisha reminded him, "Young Master Ian, do you want to bring a raincoat? The rain outside is getting heavier and heavier." Markov was a little speechless and complained, "We are going to war. What's the use of wearing a raincoat?" "What do you know?" Leisha retorted. "You're mindless and thick-skinned. No one cares if you get struck by lightning. What if young Master Ian catches a cold from the rain?" After saying that, Leisha paused and whispered, "What if it affects the quality of his offspring?" "Sister Leisha, what quality?" Frayne stared with clear and innocent eyes, looking curiously at Leisha, whose face turned red. Waving her hands, she was about to quibble, but the next moment, Ian suddenly hugged Leisha tightly. "Thunderstorm. Yes. Thunderstorm. Thank you, Leisha. You reminded me." After saying that, Ian hurriedly ran back into the house. Lyle and the others, who were confused, only heard a few clanging sounds of iron forging, and then Ian ran out again. "Let's go." Ian became more and more confident, everyone, and Lyle took a deep breath. "So be it. I've been cautious all my life. This time, let me go crazy with you." Taking back to the bedroom of the City Lord's mansion, Ian strode out. History will remember and prove everything. The Dawn Church, in its infancy, used 20 people to wipe out tens of thousands of demons, shaping an immortal golden body. This is the first chapter of the dawn shining on the entire continent. Ian turned his head, smiled confidently, and reached out to straighten the papal tiara on his head. It's still that sentence, a guaranteed win. Chapter 40. The Roderick continent welcomes the true sun. Blackwater City had a torrential downpour today. This was a cause for celebration for the citizens of Blackwater City, as a long-awaited rain is one of the 4 great joys in life. However, with the infinite water and the harvest spirit bestowed by the Great Dawn, even if the drought continued, the citizens of Blackwater City could still live a wonderful life that others could only dream of. Drinking the pure, dust-free dew, eating the blessed grain bestowed by the dawn point on normal days, they could even use the endless water to take baths, or even grow flowers and plant trees. to cultivate their sentiments would swarm to the Dawn Cathedral, piously praising Father Dawn and His Holiness the Pope, the embodiment of the divine, who had bestowed happiness upon them. The believers firmly believed that this rain was also bestowed by the Dawn. Papal army braved the rain and rushed into the church, soaked to the bone, with a look of anxiety and bloodshot eyes. Father Matthew. Something bad has happened. Father Matthew. Preposterous. Matthew, who was leading the recitation at the front, opened his eyes unhappily. Worthy of your glorious status as a member of the papal army. Jero didn't have time to argue with Matthew about these things and said urgently, Father Matthew, a winged girl came to the city for help. She claims that her people were attacked by demons east of Blackwater City. Now, Holy Knight Markov and the others have taken that little girl to pay respects to His Holiness the Pope. Demons? The appearance of this long-lost word in the ears of the citizens of Blackwater City could not help but make many people feel terrified immediately afterwards. Looking at the great sun sculpture of the Dawn in front, their hearts inexplicably calmed down. With the Dawn present, what if the Demon King came? Matthew thought the same way, his expression calm. A mere demon race, and you're already panicking like this. Are you still the glorious papal army? No, Father Matthew, that's not what I meant. Jero was so anxious that he scratched his ears and cheeks. Holy Knight Markov and the others didn't order the papal army to prepare for battle before they left, but I think the Great Dawn wouldn't ignore his children. I'm worried that His Holiness the Pope and the others might not let us go to war and go to solve these demons themselves. This statement made Matthew silent. Jero. Matthew also realized it. Combined with the Dawn God's sex kindness and love for believers and the Great Pope's protection of believers. What Jero said was not impossible, but rather it was almost an inevitable result. Go. Follow me to pay respects to His Holiness the Pope. Matthew couldn't sit still and immediately got up and led a large group of people to the city lord's mansion. But just as he walked out of the church, he saw Ian and the others walking towards the city gate in the pouring rain. Their steps hurried, accompanied by the winged girl that Jero had mentioned. Damn it. Jero was right. Matthew's heart sank. The direction Ian and the others were walking was not the direction where the papal army was stationed. Your Holiness the Pope. Please wait. Matthew quickly rushed into the rain and blocked Ian's path with people. Your Holiness the Pope, are you going to conquer the demons? Ian glanced at Markov and nodded to carry out divine wrath. Your Holiness the Pope, why not order the papal army to attack? In the heavy rain, Matthew's vision became blurred and he couldn't even see clearly how many people Ian and the others had had a formal training. How can I let the children of the Dawn make such a pointless sacrifice? But this is precisely the duty of the papal army. The Dawn is above. We are never afraid of death. Jero took a step forward and replied to Ian resolutely. It's not just the papal army. A citizen of Blackwater City raised his arms and shouted. We are also children of the Dawn. Fighting for our comrades is the righteousness that the Dawn teaches us. Your Holiness the Pope, please let us go to war. Was standing next to Ian, stared blankly at the Dawn believers who were standing not far away and were emotionally excited. They may not know who they are saving, or some people may have heard of the bad reputation of the winged people, but based on the existence of the Dawn, they are still willing to call the winged people their fellow brothers. After the fourth anti-demon war, the winged people had not felt such pure kindness for a long time. Hamia's tears fell mixed with the rain. Roderick continent, only the Dawn God sect was the last pure land for the winged people, and also the most perfect home for the winged people. If she wasn't still anxious about the clanland, Hamia would have had to give a few thousand words of a heart of gratitude themed speech. Or sing a song. Listen to me, thank you. Looking at the increasingly restless Blackwater City, Ian raised his hand and shouted, Children of the Dawn, please listen to me. The moment the words fell, the noisy Blackwater City immediately fell silent. The situation is urgent. We have no time to waste. I know your intentions, but the Dawn will never allow his children to do dangerous things without certainty. Today's battle is for us to personally practice the divine might of the Dawn, and when you become stronger in the future, I will expect you to also be able to fight for the Dawn. I promise you, this battle will be won. Now, please step aside. The situation of the Dawn winged people are extremely urgent. This time, the citizens of Blackwater City finally silently made way for a passage. Ian breathed a sigh of relief and didn't have time to continue to give a pre-war speech. The more he delayed for a minute, the more critical the situation on the Winged People's side would be. Those were all Ian's predetermined loyal scouting archers of the Dawn God Sect, an important combat force for the Dawn God Sect's expansion and suppression of the demon race in the future. Taking Leal and the others, Ian strode towards the outside of the city. In the eyes of the Dawn believers in Blackwater City, at this moment, the backs of Ian and his 20 people turned into a wall made of gold and stone. Banner of victory was already hanging high. Gradually, it was as if they saw a round of warm and gentle rising sun, steadily rising from the east, sweeping away the haze of the night. Matthew suddenly had a feeling of inspiration and foresaw some of the future. The Roderick continent seemed to be welcoming its true sun. After a moment, Matthew shouted as hard as he could, "Your Holiness the Pope, please return safely." Ian kept walking and continued forward. Under the heavy rain, only Ian's voice passed through the rain and entered everyone's ears. The dawn will hang victory high above Blackwater City for 9 days. Thanks to Twilight Snow Soul, Rachel, nickname, and ID, Semo Sad Purple Knight, use Ianabin, can't release this spell, and Brewery Hours for the monthly tickets. Thank you for your support. Chapter 41 Charge. After leaving Blackwater City, the group spurred their horses towards the Grey Drift Valley east of Blackwater City Point. The further they went, the more desolate and empty the surrounding land became. After galloping for more than 10 minutes, there wasn't even a blade of grass to be seen. Point washed by the rain, there was yellow mud everywhere. Point hooves pounded, splashing mud. Point under the dark clouds and the occasional flash of lightning. The men and women on the 20 light cavalry leaned forward, urging their horses on, racing through the torrential rain. Point beside the figure in the lead, riding a tall white horse and wearing a gold and white papal tiara, was Hania. Her pure white wings spread as she flew alongside many hoof prints to this land that had been neglected for so long. The dull thud of hooves could still be heard clearly in the downpour. A tragic scene of going against the tide towards the battlefield. Leal followed Ian closely, his eyes scanning the surroundings warily, afraid of an enemy ambush. In his hand, he tightly gripped the enchanted diamond sword hanging at his waist, the power boost from the enchantment giving Leal more security. Recalling everything that had happened in Blackwater City, Leal felt a sense of inexplicable emotion. The citizens of Blackwater City seemed to trust Ian more than he, an old man who had loyally followed the Forbes family his whole life, and even raised Ian himself. When they heard that Ian was going to block the demons with 20 men, they had tried to dissuade him and expressed their concerns. But later, Leal clearly remembered that at the last moment, before leaving the city, he looked back and saw everyone, from Father Matthew to the 3-year-old children. Everyone's eyes were full of fervent faith. They believed firmly that Ian would be victorious, simply because Ian had told them that he would bring victory back to Blackwater City. Whether it was faith in the dawn or faith in Ian, it no longer mattered. After all, Ian was the embodiment of the dawn. Leal was just a little ashamed. The citizens of Blackwater City had only been with Ian for less than a month, and even if you only counted the times they met, it would only be a few times at most. Everything Ian said. So what about him, the Cardinal Archbishop of the Church of the Dawn? He knew Ian better than anyone else, and he knew the Church of the Dawn better than anyone else. Shouldering the revival of the Forbes family and the rise of the Church of the Dawn. He was the leader who possessed thousands of fanatical believers who were ready to sacrifice themselves for him at any time, and who controlled the great dawn heaven where we need to look up to him. Grasping the enchanted diamond sword in his hand, which was constantly giving him courage and strength, Leal no longer hesitated. Ian said he would win, and he definitely would. As the Cardinal Archbishop of the Church of the Dawn, the only thing he needed to do was to firmly believe in the Pope and act according to the Pope's instructions. The speed of the warhorse under his crotch was getting faster and faster, but there were still no landmarks around, and it was still an endless wilderness of mud. Not even a shadow of the Grey Drift Valley could be seen. At this time, they had been galloping for more than half an hour. Ian raised his head against the rain and looked at Hania, who was flying beside him, and said loudly, "Hania, how long will it take to get to the Great Rift Valley?" Hania instantly spiraled upwards, raised her vision, and then swooped down lightly, returning to Ian's side. About an hour, your holiness. Ian nodded, but he was marveling at how the Winged Clan was indeed a natural scout. Hania had traveled all the way from the Great Rift Valley to ask for help, and it only took her more than 10 minutes to fly to Blackwater City. But it would take them nearly 2 hours to ride excellent warhorses. This kind of speed, coupled with the maneuverability of Hania's success just now. No wonder the Winged Clan was able to make such a big name for themselves in the 100 Clan Alliance back then. Hania was still anxious and quickly said, "Your Holiness, why don't I go back and see how things are going and then come back to report? At my speed, I can make a round trip in half an hour." Ian shook his head. "No, with a great battle imminent, we must preserve all the power. That should not be wasted." Hania didn't say anything more, just silently increased her speed and guided the warhorse forward. Suddenly, Freya rode her horse to her side and shouted loudly, "Sister Hania, your Winged Clan's wings won't be able to fly because of the heavy rain, and you are so fast. Since you can't beat those demons, it's still no problem to escape. Escape right. Why don't you retreat first?" Ian and the others also looked over curiously, but for some reason, Hania remained silent in the face of this simple question. Retreat? Below the Great Rift Valley, a burly Winged Clan man flapped his wings and swooped down, waving a tattered great sword, smashing dozens of undead skeletons and several mutated demonic beasts. He flew up again and wiped the rain off his face. Where to retreat to? Another strong man flew forward and split apart the Mind Flayer's spell that was attacking the big man with a sword, and said anxiously while looking back, "North, south, or Blackwater City that Hania mentioned. Patriarch, take the children and leave. The Winged Clan can still leave a spark." Silence. The Winged Clan Patriarch continued to wave his great sword and swoop down to support the other Winged Clan warriors. Every move and stance was filled with hatred, and the power was full. After the 4th anti-demon war, how much infamy and injustice did my Winged Clan bear? Why did we come here? Have you all forgotten? Turning around, he fiercely stabbed the great sword into the skull of the undead knight, and with a twist of the hilt, he immediately shattered its soul fire. "I haven't forgotten. I can't forget. The most new small say in first hair. I dare not forget." The direction of the Mind Flayer mage, and charged forward without hesitation. "I can't forget the old patriarch grabbing my hand when he was dying, stubbornly telling me that our Winged Clan was wronged. I can't forget my father roaring at me to open my eyes and watch before he was torn apart by the Mind Flayer, telling me that the Winged Clan has no cowards, not traitors, situations to die, just to prove that the Winged Clan has always had a pure soul." The fiery red sword energy turned into a wave, evaporating the rain, and off the head of the Mind Flayer mage with one sword. Then he raised his sword, and faced the attacks of the endless undead legion, killing towards the other Mind Flayers. "I can't forget the promise cutting I made to countless martyrs in that Winged Clan burial ground. I will not leave the anti-demon front until the injustice borne by the Winged Clan is washed away." The Winged Clan Patriarch's scorching fiery red fighting spirit turned into flames, making the whole person look like a charging flame spear facing the coverage of countless demonic magic. He still moved forward without hesitation. "If we retreat one step today, we will retreat one step tomorrow. If we retreat again and again, is the Winged Clan still the Winged Clan? In time, will there still be a place for my Winged Clan on this Rodri continent? If it is really confirmed that my Winged Clan is greedy for life and afraid of death, is a traitor, is a surrender faction, what face do I have to see my father and the old patriarch? What face do you have to see those predecessors who calmly went to their deaths?" The flame spear went straight to Huanglong, killing another Mind Flayer warrior. The Winged Clan Patriarch flew up, looking resolutely at the core of the demonic army guarded by countless we are warriors, not traitors. "All clansmen listen to my orders. The strong charge into battle. The old and young defend. Women and children heal the wounded. Fight to the death, and do not retreat. Charge. Charge." Undead legion, and in the sky was a lone flame meteor swooping down. This scene directly filled the tragic sense of destiny. He understood that once he left, he would never return like an arrow leaving the string. But at least, like all the Winged Clan predecessors, he was moving forward until his death. The colorful magical halos were ready, weaving into a large net waiting for the winged clan patriarch to arrive, disappearing into the center of the army formation point. The roaring thunder made the dark world regain its light point in an instant. Hundreds of undead knights, demonic beasts, and dozens of mind flayer mages were struck into a patch of scorched earth by the lightning, stunned, staring at the crater that appeared out of nowhere point at the bottom of the pit. A radiant trident was inserted, emitting wisps of mist point. The next moment, the trident trembled, and then rose into the air on its own, flying into the sky. Following the trident's flight path, looked up. They only saw a floating island of mud appearing in the sky at some point. On it, Ian, wearing gold and white robes and an extravagant papal tiara, had a cold expression. Grasping the terrifying trident in one hand, he despised all the demons. Lightning frequently exploded behind him, and the light spot of the Holy Pope, sandwiched between black and white, was the most dazzling in the world. Gradually, Ian raised the trident in his hand again, like a god throwing divine punishment at the blasphemers on earth. By the divine decree of the dawns, kill the demons. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Lightning Drawing Trident, God of Gods in Thunderstorms. The holy trident plummeted, followed closely by a thick bolt of heavenly lightning. In the blink of an eye, with the thunderous expulsion of demons, the trident flew back. Hundreds more high-level undead knights were obliterated. Before the Mind Flayer officers could react, the Mind Flayers, their eyes bloodshot with rage, saw the terrifying trident descending from the sky, wrapped in lightning demons. At this moment, divine grace was like the sea, and divine might was like a prison. This was vividly displayed on Ian. In the eyes of Lael and the winged people, Ian was the benevolent, holy, and majestic god of dawn. The winged people. Although the winged people fought desperately, the huge difference in strength and numbers still made them see no hope. Their morale was collapsing again and again. On the other hand, the demons' morale was like adding oil to a raging fire, growing more and more intense. This was a major taboo on the battlefield. These 3 strikes successfully dampened the demons' morale and boosted the winged people's fighting spirit. This was the most crucial thing. It was not in vain that Ian brought out his most prized creation, a fully enchanted trident. Speaking of which, it was Reja who reminded him, and today was also considered lucky, as they encountered a thunderstorm. Mending, unbreaking, and loyalty point on ordinary days, it was already stronger than a diamond sword, but now, in this thunderstorm weather, this channeling enchanted trident was the god of gods. Reja and the others who were with Ian day and night. At this moment, their eyes were shining with golden light, with an expression of shock and reverence. Ian becoming even more indescribable. Reja's words turned his head and whispered, "Action." Yes. In the next moment, Lael's figure flashed and disappeared instantly. "Father, I'm back. I've returned with reinforcement. Demons. Our winged people are saved." The winged people's patriarch came back to his senses and looked at Hania in astonishment. People's patriarch originally wanted to ask when Hania ran out to seek help, but at this critical moment, there was no time to chat about these things. Gratefully looked up at Ian, the winged people's patriarch raised his arms and shouted, "Warriors, His Holiness the Pope has personally come to cheer us on. Seize the opportunity. Follow me to charge." But as soon as the words fell, Lael had already stood beside him. "Don't charge." The winged people's patriarch looked at Lael in astonishment, completely unable to capture his movements. This was an expert, stronger than him. "Father, this is Archbishop Lael." Hania quickly introduced. Lael nodded, and then said, "From now on, the battlefield will be taken over by our Dawn God Church. Let the old, weak, women and children retreat. You take the strongest warriors to find His Holiness the Pope. He will teach you what to do." But the winged people's patriarch was about to refute, but Hania had already grabbed his arm and flew towards the sky. "Father, listen to the Dawn God Church. Only under the protection of the Dawn can we achieve victory." Before the winged people's patriarch could react, he had already been taken by Hania to the floating island in the sky. Looking carefully, there was a square road here, one end connected to the edge of the eastern Great Rift Valley. Some square things. The floating island was constantly expanding. The Winged People's patriarch didn't have time to care about these things at this time, and looked at Ian. Compared to him, he was not tall, but rather thin, but at this time, holding the trident, he seemed so holy, making people awe inspiring. Father. Hania pushed the Winged People's patriarch. The latter came back to his senses and quickly stepped forward and knelt on one knee. The current patriarch of the Winged People, Uriel, has met. Alright, the situation is urgent. Don't say these. Ian turned around and pointed to the boxes piled up on the ground at some unknown time. The left side is bows, the right side is arrows. The quality is very special. Let your Winged People's most elite warriors come. The Winged People shouldn't have forgotten how to shoot, right? Uriel was stunned for a moment, then turned to joyfully clasping him fists. Dare not forget. Although we cannot make bows and arrows, for so many years, all the elite warriors have used the only 9 bows and arrows left in the clan to practice archery. Every day, we yearn to take up bows and arrows again to avenge the demons. Ian nodded. Then hurry up, take the bows and arrows, counterattack. Buy us time. Uriel didn't ask what time to buy, just clasped him fists gratefully, and then loudly greeted all the Winged People's warriors. He couldn't wait to open the box himself, ignoring the strange characteristics, and directly took out a bow. As soon as the bow was in his hand, Uriel was overjoyed. Good bow. It's stronger than the fine bows of the dwarves and elves. But as soon as he took the arrow, Uriel couldn't laugh anymore. 300 kilograms. The weight wasn't that much, but to draw the bow fully for an attack required far more than just 300 kilograms of force. Of the Winged Tribe's 4,000 plus members, only about 1,000 were strong and able. Adding to that the losses from the recent battle, the combat strength was greatly diminished, probably leaving only 400 or 500 capable individuals. Among these 400 or 500, perhaps no more than 200 could fully draw these bows. But undeniably, as long as they could fully draw these divine bows, even the mind flayers below wouldn't dare to face them head on. Ian finished observing the maids placing blocks in various locations above the Rift Valley. Uriel had already arranged 2 groups of archers to rotate attacks in formation. Compared to Ian and the others who had to stand on the floating island, the Winged Tribe members could simply hug their bows, fly into the sky, and shoot without risk. The newest chapters are first released at. In an instant, arrows rained down. With these powerful bows, a single arrow could skewer several undead warriors like candied haws. Generally speaking, to kill an undead warrior, one had to shatter its soul fire, which was located in its head. Even Lyle, who trained shooting every day in MC, couldn't guarantee every arrow would hit its mark. But the Winged Tribe warriors could do it. Adding to the power of the bows, as long as the upper body was hit, the soul fire would be crushed along with it. In this short time, they had successfully shown a trend of a major counterattack. However, the demons also reacted and began to gather in large numbers towards the mountain platform where the Winged Tribe was concentrated. There were still many Winged Tribe children there who hadn't learned to fly. Now, Uriel and the others were anxious, and the arrow attacks became even more frequent. Markov. Ian called out, and instantly, Markov led the other 9 knights to stand in formation at the 4 corners of the floating island, taking out their long bows. Uriel noticed that the bows in their hands, like Ian's trident, shimmered with light. Even the iron armor they wore, which was the envy of others, was glowing point magical equipment so much. The Church of the Dawn was so rich, although fewer people had come. With such strength and equipment they could win, Uriel confident felt, and glanced at Ian, who had put away the amazing divine trident, and was running around the island, placing strange red blocks in large numbers. Those red blocks exuded a dangerous aura. Yet, like the island, they directly floated in the air above the demon army. Then, he neatly arranged some iron blocks, quite wasteful. But at this critical moment, Uriel naturally wouldn't say such things. Zeng. A string sound like thunder exploded. Markov and the others fired their arrows by the dissipation of black light spots. The demons that came into contact with it instantly turned to ashes. Outrageous. Even the dwarf so-called nation protecting divine bow wasn't this powerful, right? Uriel was greatly shocked, and his heart became more at ease. He didn't crave such a divine bow as only Lyle at this time. wearing shimmering iron armor, and wielding a similarly shimmering diamond sword. His diamond sword passed all undead creatures, including the powerful mind flayer warriors, couldn't withstand even a single blow. Such a strong human knight. Could it be one of the humans' elites? Uriel couldn't help but whisper in admiration. Just as he was about to get excited and go down to fight alongside Lyle, suddenly, he saw a streak of pure white light hitting Lyle squarely. Uriel turned his head in astonishment, realizing it was the Knight Markov from the Church of the Dawn. There's a traitor. Uriel was furious. The Wind Tribe hated traitors the most. Now, Lyle, who was fighting alone, was actually stabbed in the back. Uriel immediately raised his sword and was about to rush over. Continue your work, don't interfere. Ian scolded injuries. Hearing Ian's explanation, Uriel and the Wind Tribe people were dumbfounded. Arrow of Rebirth. Does such an outrageous weapon even exist in this world? But looking down, Uriel couldn't help but curse. Lyle, who had some minor wounds on his body just now, was invigorated after being shot by the arrow, and all the small wounds on his body were healed. Arrow of Rebirth. Wrong. It's adrenaline. Uriel felt relieved. With the Church of the Dawn's endless methods, this battle was guaranteed to win. The next moment, the excited Uriel turned to look at Markov. Knight of the Dawn. Please shoot me with an arrow. Eve, everyone. Chapter 43. Behold the power of technology. Gazing at the arrows raining down from the sky, especially those eerie black arrows, each one that landed eliminated at least dozens of demons. In just a short while, the demon army had been reduced by 2,000 or 3,000. Just minutes ago, the demons had a clear advantage and looked poised to capture the Wind Clan's leader. At the rear of the army formation, the Mind Flayer officer's expression grew increasingly grim. Coupled with the Mind Flayer's withered, sunken face, scarlet eyes, and fangs protruding from its lips. Remember the primary website domain name. It looked incomparably hideous. The Mind Flayer officer didn't care about the casualties of the Undead Legion or other Mind Flayers. The arrogant Mind Flayers didn't care about such things. Even if these demon troops were wiped out, it wouldn't matter. It was just that, having received the order from that great being, and even making a military pledge before setting out, if they couldn't sweep away the last of the Wind Clan on the continent of Roderick this time, death was a small matter. If he were demoted, his demon life would be completely ruined. But the problem was that in this operation, he hadn't brought any flying units, even though he knew clearly before setting out that he was dealing with the Flying Wind Clan. That great being had said it. The Wind Clan wouldn't escape, and couldn't escape, so there was no need to send out a flying legion to encircle them to their deaths. Fighting without retreating point. In a short moment, the Wind Clan had suffered over 1,000 casualties, victorious, muddling through when stalemated, and collectively moving away when at a disadvantage. Their motto was, take advantage of favorable winds, surrender when the wind turns against you, and who cares about sacrificing, as long as the knife isn't at my throat. But such an advantageous situation had completely changed later on. Where did these damned guys come from? Their methods are so bizarre. Are they the demons? Or are we the demons? Didn't those useless succubi get any wind of this? Gazing at Lear's charging figure, the Mind Flayer officer spat with resentment in his eyes. This old man wasn't particularly strong, but that armor and that strange magic sword that gave him a strong sense of danger really made him afraid to advance rashly. That thing was probably on par with the weapons of the four horsemen of calamity under the great king of arrogance. Fortunately, there were high-level undead knights and demonized beasts to hold him back. But this wasn't a long-term solution. Encirclement might be effective against this old man. After all, his strength couldn't be said to be particularly strong. The problem was that every time he showed signs of fatigue or even got injured, a pure white arrow would pierce through the air. The next moment, this half-dead old man could be instantly resurrected to full health. Wicked. Truly wicked. Group of suddenly appearing humans was small in number and not strong. It was just that they didn't have the weak fighting will like other humans. This wasn't a problem. The only thing that made him somewhat afraid was the guy who used the lightning trident at the beginning. But in any case, the Mind Flayer officer had to admit that each of these humans he looked down upon actually had such outrageous equipment. Moreover, these people are not only armed themselves, but were also rich enough to support others. Even that group of winged clan, who were so poor that they were broke, now had so many powerful bows and arrows. If this were said, how many restrictions demon jaws would drop? When could the human race, this group of stupid, clumsy, lazy, and unambitious people, also produce and equip bows and arrows? While the Mind Flayer officer was pondering, that shot winged clan warriors who had been beaten to within an inch of their lives' play. Suddenly, the Mind Flayer officer's eyes turned, and he beckoned the Mind Flayer to whisper a few words. Then, with a confident expression, he stared arrogantly in Lear's direction. It was said that the evil spirits under the King of Greed were the smartest and most cunning, born strategists. But in his opinion, he, the Mind Flayer, also had the qualities of a good general in the world. Before long, Lear, who was injured again, and whose were somewhat disordered, went straight for the arrow of rebirth again. But this time, the situation was different. Demonized beasts desperately blocked him. Immediately afterward, a seriously injured Mind Flayer leaped high and rushed towards the arrow of rebirth with excitement by inch. Even the iron-boned Mind Flayer couldn't help but roll on the ground in pain, roaring and begging for mercy. This scene bewildered not only the demons, but also the winged clan in the sky. Ian chuckled and muttered in a low voice, "Idiot's arrow of rebirth is a special attack against demonic creatures." This quiet grumbling fell into Uriel's ears, and the 2-meter-tall man's eyes almost popped out. After a long while, he couldn't help but swear. This is possible? What kind of artifact is this? Ian didn't answer, and continued to instruct Markov to aim the arrow of rebirth at Lear. But the Mind Flayer officer was exasperated. Is this an artifact that a despicable human race can make? No. This thing is extremely detrimental to my demons, and must be reported to the Demon King as soon as possible. In the Mind Flayer officer's eyes, Ian and his group were now pure cheaters. Array, the grabbed Mind Flayer was shocked, but looking at his officer's man-eating gaze, he still ran out to send the message. The newest and most complete novels are first released at before long. Ian in the sky saw all the Mind Flayers below converging in one place. What kind of strange strategic deployment is this? Fiercely. Suddenly, Uriel landed anxiously beside Ian. Your Holiness, quickly use your power to summon lightning to stop them. They are going to organize a Mind Flayer soul-devouring array. What? Ian was a little stunned. He had never heard of this thing. That is a forbidden technique performed by the Mind Flayer race at the cost of their lives. Uriel explained anxiously each other, and be used by the demons. Given the current situation, once the array is formed, I'm afraid that several thousand winged clan members will instantly fall and counterattack. Ian understood. Simply put, it was a forbidden technique that forcibly twisted thoughts. No wonder he hadn't heard of it for so many years. After all, the 100 Clan Alliance basically had no chance of defeating the Mind Flayer army to the point where they needed to use life burning. He glanced at Uriel, who seemed very familiar with this forbidden technique, his brows filled with deep-seated hatred in addition to anxiety. He guessed this forbidden technique might be the reason for the collective fall of the Winged Clan back then. The Winged Clan were definitely experts in researching Mind Flayers. But when it came to summoning lightning, Ian looked up at the weather. The heavy rain continued, but the thunder was gone, and the trident's lightning could no longer be triggered. But it wasn't a big problem. Ian turned to look at the ridges on both sides, where Ezra and the others, who had disappeared for a long time, waved remotely. Ready? Ian smiled and ignored Uriel's anxious request, calling out loudly to Lear, "Come back, Bishop Lear, your Holiness, don't let the Mind Flayers." Before Uriel could finish speaking, Lear returned to Ian's side in a few flashes. "Be calm, Ian," comforted Uriel, then revealed himself with the trident in hand. The Mind Flayer officer was horrified. "Don't huddle together. Scatter immediately." To be honest, he didn't need to say it. As soon as they saw that golden and white figure holding a trident, like a nightmare, the Mind Flayers directly ignored the order and scrambled to escape, and the Mind Flayer officer also grabbed a demon beast next to him, hiding behind its huge body. Seeing this, Ian smiled contemptuously and said loudly, "Demons below, you are surrounded by the Church of the Dawn." At this time, the demons realized that, at some point, they had been surrounded by square stone pillars from all directions. The only remaining exit behind them also had a small sky island floating in the sky, with a Milky Way hanging down. Under the demon's watchful eyes, it sealed off the last way out. The same water flowed down the stone pillars around them at intervals, pushed to the position below the sky island where Ian was. This scene made the demons even more confused. Ian waved, and Markov and the others all changed into fire arrow enchanted bows and arrows, aiming at the TNT floating in the sky above the sky island. And Regia and the others, far away in other directions, were doing the same. After doing all this, Ian smiled quite happily, and raised his hand high. Prisoners, behold. The power of technology, release. The TNT flashed with white light, and fell to the ground. And in all directions, the TNT placed by Regia and the others also fell into the water, and was pushed by the water to the core area, where the demons were. Looking at the red squares flashing white light, the Mind Flayer officer suddenly felt a great sense of impending doom, kicking over the demon beasts and Mind Flayers next to him, letting them press him down, and then roaring hoarsely, quick. The rest of the words were drowned in the explosion. Dear readers, Happy New Year's Eve. May everyone make a fortune in the new year. May your family be happy and complete. May you have good fortune, longevity, and health. In the new year, may everyone be happy and joyful. Chapter 44 Artisan Explosion. With the first TNT, the Roderick continent echoed with the roar of technology. Immediately following was a dense and terrifying chain of explosions. The eastern Great Rift Valley was as if a violent earthquake had occurred, with the indestructible mountains on all sides shattering and tumbling down, causing secondary damage to the demons. Explosions rippled out one after another, ceaselessly. This book is first published on the entire network by Ian's heart also twitched with pain. All of his TNT reserves. They were all used up in this moment. Now, he would have to save up for another and a half days when he returned to the MC world, but regardless, the scene of the explosion was very healing. Playing with explosions in the Roderick continent was much more beautiful than playing with explosions in the MC world. This was a spiritual enjoyment that was completely absent from bombing in the MC world. Another right, she always felt that her young master Ian was about to develop some terrible habit. The explosions did not stop. The winged people and Markov and others went from being confused at the beginning to celebrating now. Although the thick mushroom cloud smoke blocked their view, they could still faintly hear the sounds. Every scream of the Mind Flayers was like a reward to the winged people. To put it bluntly, the winged people were really enjoying this. However, it wasn't as if no one felt sorry here. For example, Regia in the distance was pouting her small mouth, looking at the undead army below with heartache and regret. Good bone sticks. If you pick them up, take them apart, and throw them into the workbench, you might be able to produce bone meal. Slowing down, Liel breathed a sigh of relief, and couldn't help but feel shocked and excited. After this wave, the demons would really be almost wiped out. Hinking back to before leaving the city, I actually suspected that young Master Ian was leading the 19 of us to our deaths. I'm really ashamed, proud, wishing he could point his nostrils to the sky. You weren't wrong either. After all, at the time, it sounded ridiculous to have 20 people fight against tens of thousands of demonic elite soldiers. Liel glared at Markov fiercely. You're out. You're a holy knight of the Church of the Dawn. Your words and deeds should be decent and have a sense of style. The word shedan, bullshit/nonsense, is too uncivilized. Can't you say Arabian Nights or unbelievable? Markov shrank his head and didn't dare to retort. Understanding of the heavenly kingdom of Dawn. His kind of problem must never appear in the high-level members of our Church of the Dawn. We must change this in the future. Now, Liel was already wondering if he should go to the Dawn Church to pray regularly every day like old Matthew and the others after returning. No, that's not right. Praying was not as good as praying directly to Ian. After all, young Master Ian is the true god of Darwanahu. Liel praised softly. On the other side, Uriel was still staring blankly at the explosion underground. This inexplicable thing, it felt like it could be compared to a forbidden spell. In such a short time, the solid ground of the Eastern Rift Valley was blasted down dozens of meters, exuding a gentle and compassionate holy light. Uriel suddenly understood the reason why the Church of the Dawn was called Dawn. Drove away the darkness that had enveloped the sky for hundreds of years of the dawn. Listening to his daughter's speech, Uriel nodded like a chicken pecking at rice and followed Hania's example by clasping his hands together. After a moment, Uriel patted Hania's shoulder with relief and said happily, Hania, you did a great job this time. Thanks to you for inviting the Great Church of the Dawn, otherwise, the winged people might have been buried in my hands. Hania, facing Uriel's praise, had a stern face and reproached, Ava, you should thank the Great Dawn and His Holiness the Pope. We had asked others for help, they might not have taken action. Only the great and benevolent Dawn regards us as its own children. Only the kind and compassionate Pope will take action with divine power and save us everyone from fire and water. Dawn is selfless. He loves every child who devoutly believes in him. If you really want to thank the Great Dawn, you should be like me. Like in Blackwater City, I always be proud to be a child of the Dawn, and always have the determination to die for the Dawn. Uriel nodded repeatedly, not feeling that what Hania said was extreme. Instead, he looked eager for knowledge and said, Hania, what do you think we should do to make the Great Dawn and His Holiness the Pope feel our piety? Devout child of the Dawn. Erect a statue for the Dawn? Hold a grand sacrifice? Offer countless treasures? Immediately, many winged people looked eager for knowledge and humbly asked Hania for advice. Hania also taught them everything she had seen and understood. After the TNT cluster bombing, the dark clouds seemed to have been blown away as well. The rain gradually lessened, and even a corner of the sun was revealed. When the smoke cleared below, everyone could see clearly. The demonic army, which had been so large and like locusts, was now fragmented, with only 200 or so mind flayers left. Including the undead army and the mutated magical beasts, there were only a little over 1,000 left. Clapped his hands happily. Uriel stepped forward and knelt on one knee. He looked at Ian, who was standing with his hands behind his back, with excitement and fervor, especially since a ray of sunlight happened to be shining on his back, making him look even more sacred. Our Holiness the Pope, please let us go to battle and bring the final victory to the Great Dawn, to you. Ian shook his head. Don't worry. The more the battle progresses to the end, the more we must seek victory and stability, to prevent the demons from retaliating desperately. Of course, this was the nice way of saying it. Ian's real thought was, he had made so many preparations. If he let the winged people go down to harvest directly now, wouldn't his resources be wasted? Eel, hearing Ian's call, Leal proposed knowingly. Leal was very happy. Ian was not overwhelmed by victory, and could maintain a high degree of vigilance and self-control until the last second of the battlefield. He had already seen old Forbes' style in him. In fact, Ian had even more style than old Forbes. Young master has grown to the point where we can completely rest assured while feeling emotional. Leal kept moving, calling Regia and the others to take out the pumpkins and walk towards the built iron block structure below. The frightened Mind Flayer commander carefully pushed away the Mind Flayer and magical beast corpses that had been blown into pieces on his body after the explosion stopped. Immediately following, he looked around, noticing that his full-strength army of nearly 20,000 was now fragmented, with only a little over 1,000 left. The Mind Flayer commander couldn't help but curse angrily. His scholar eyes narrowed slightly. Unless he could annihilate the winged people and kill that human who was leading them, his face was uncertain. In the end, the Mind Flayer commander still calmed down and prepared to take a gamble. But just as he was about to leap up and catch those humans and winged people off guard before they attacked, the next moment, something moved faster than him. Dozens of silver lights fell vertically from the sky, accompanied by a rumbling explosion. Smoke rose everywhere. The Mind Flayer commander thought there was another explosion and was so frightened that he instantly shrank under the magical beast corpses. But after a while, the expected explosion did not happen. Square monsters walked out swaying. No, those were not monsters. Feeling the dense aura of threat, the Mind Flayer commander's pupils shrank like needles. Those were demon-killing machines. Space-Time Administrator 321 Boss, Manset Boss, Be-Aesthetics CP Scholar Boss, Book Friend 2020 Boss, Book Friend 2019 Boss, 123 Book Boss, Fallen Sin Angel Boss for the monthly tickets, and thank you bosses for the recommended tickets. Happy New Year to the bosses. May you rise step by step and get rich and wealthy. Chapter 45, Iron Golem Army, Charge. It proves that a Mind Flayer officer can become a member of the management because they have their own capabilities. At least, their perception of crisis is much stronger than other mind flayers, although it's useless walked over, its thick arms clanging. With each step, a square pit was stamped out of the ground, but laugh at the fools. Sure enough, the next moment, the magic beast wailed, and the teeth in its mouth shattered like glass all over the ground. Counter-attack mode triggered. The iron golem swung its fist towards the magic beast. Before the fist even arrived, the explosive fist wind instantly flipped the mind flayer warriors who were attacking right behind the magic beast. Bang! A crisp sound, like a watermelon being smashed open, echoed in the valley. Blood mist burst. The huge magic beast didn't even leave a bone behind. Only the splashing blood smeared the iron golem's body, making this steel-boned iron golem stand bathed in blood. Those scarlet square eyes stared indifferently at all the enemies in front of it. Devil. It's a devil. This sentence was shouted hoarsely from the mouth of the mind flayer, a devil recognized by the entire continent angrily from the back, but he didn't dare to look the iron golem in the eye at all. Anyone who retreats will be thrown into the Heartless prison. It seemed that the Heartless prison was a terrible place. Hearing the mind flayer officer say this, the mind flayers shivered for a moment. Then they shouted and killed, emboldening themselves, and rushed towards the iron golem's neck. But an even more desperate scene for the demons appeared. The attacked iron golem didn't move at all, not even a step back, only a slight crack appeared on its body. Before the mind flayer warriors could react, the devil in their hearts had already raised its fist from bottom to top. It was the sound of a watermelon exploding again. However, this time, the mind flayer warrior was more resistant into the mountain. His body fragmented, and his hideous head flew to the mind flayer officer's side. His face still had lingering confusion and fear. This was not as good as being smashed into a blood mist. Monster. The mind flayers finally collapsed again. The crisp bang sound kept ringing in the valley, like a life-threatening musical note. Every time this sound rang, it meant that a demon was being slaughtered one punch, and the indestructible undead knight was smashed into bone powder with one punch. As for the powerful mind fighters, severed arms and broken limbs flew everywhere. Dozens of iron golems rampaged and slaughtered across the entire battlefield. Gradually, all the iron golems were shrouded in a layer of **** blood, making them look even more terrifying. This terrifying scene, like a slaughterhouse, was particularly beautiful in the eyes of Uriel and the others. Especially when they heard the mind flayer's fearful cries of monster. Uriel was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes. You **** bastards. So you also know fear. This is the Guardian of the Dawn. The Iron Golem. Hania shouted excitedly, and the Winged Clan people suddenly realized. Uriel exclaimed, so it's the Dawn Envoy. No wonder it's so powerful. We will definitely win this time. Ian didn't think so. Admittedly, the Iron Golem is extremely powerful. In 3 dimensions, except for speed, its defense and strength are maximum doubt. Those mind flayers below would turn into jam with one punch. But the Iron Golem also has its limitations. Iron Golems only attack hostile creatures. If they are created by players, they will also attack all enemies of the players. These demons, at least the mind flayers, are not directly considered hostile creatures within the Iron Golem's identification. So at the beginning, they went straight to the Undead Legion. Secondly, these Iron Golems were placed by Lil and the others, and they are their summons. In theory, they would attack the demons who fought Lil just now units. The newest novels are first published at Flayers. As long as they don't actively attack the Iron Golem won't care. Although the battlefield is so chaotic, it is difficult to discover the mechanism of the Iron Golem. But Ian would not think that the Mind Flayer officer is really a fool. Of course, Markov and the others can now use bows and arrows to remotely determine hostile units, and now the Iron Golem can attack like a summon. But Ian has other ideas. The number of demons has been sharply reduced here, and there are still Iron Golems guarding below. It is entirely possible to let Markov and the others go to practice in actual combat, which not only hones their combat power, but also allows them to master the diamond enchanted sword in actual combat. It can't be that the weapons that Ian spent a lot of money to make are useless after a battle, right? Wouldn't that make Ian seem like a big sucker? Now, it depends on how long it takes for the mind flayers to discover this, but according to the current progress out, it is estimated that not many will be dead, and then it will be the safest actual combat. The development of this battle has now completely entered garbage time. The only remaining role of the demons is to help Ian train soldiers with their blood point. The situation is exactly as Ian thought. The mind flayer officer who can lead an army of tens of thousands of demons is not a full point. The reason why this war has been suppressed from beginning to end is really because of the dimension reduction strike of equipment. Sneakily watched another iron golem pass by him, not even looking at him. Combining the situation on the battlefield, he finally successfully analyzed the characteristics of the iron golem. Immediately, he stopped hiding and dodging, pushed away the magic beast corpse pressing on his body, and stood up right next to the iron golem. Seeing that the iron golem didn't attack him, but casually smashed the undead knight next to him to death, the mind flayer officer breathed a sigh of relief, and then shouted instantly slumped, "All mind flayers retreat. Do not attack these monsters. As long as you don't hit them, they won't attack you." To the ground, breathing heavily, celebrating their escape from death. They found out quickly, not a fool. On the Sky Island, Ian smiled, but his eyes were full of contempt. Left in the valley at this time point, to be precise, it was the most timid and luckiest group of mind flayers. Although there were still some undead legion and magic beasts, the iron golem was still chasing and killing them at this time, and they could no longer form a threat. Victory is set. Ian turned his head back with a smile and looked at Markov and the others who were eager to try. "Now, you can go down and fight. Go. Bring the glory of victory to the dawn." "Yes, Your Holiness the Pope." Mona Lisa Kun, old waiter, book reader and critic, book friend 2020, and Penguin and Flying Bird for their monthly tickets, and thanks to 17 monthly tickets from Comical Uncle. Happy New Year to all the bosses, good fortune and health, family reunion, and wealth from all directions. Chapter 46 Basic Qualities of a Devout Believer. Receiving Ian's order, Markov and the others, who had been holding back for the entire battle, instantly became excited. Although using bows and arrows to pick off enemies was a kind of fun, as knights, they enjoyed charging into battle and slaughtering. Being drenched in demon blood was, to them, the greatest honor. This time, even the maids like Leisure went to fight, and Freya didn't fall behind either. Below, there were iron golems to provide cover, actively attacking the enemies they identified, and above, Lionel held a power-infused enchanted longbow, observing the battlefield. Whenever someone was in danger, a burst of instant damage would be dealt, and if someone was injured, a regeneration arrow would be shot. There were also winged warriors hovering in the sky, with 3 winged warriors guarding each person, ensuring they wouldn't fall into danger. Plus, Markov and the others were all equipped with top-tier enchanted iron armor. With the number of mind flayers remaining, they really didn't pose a threat. Just like Ian said, this war had entered garbage time. Like in basketball, at this stage, the head coach would bring on substitutes or bench warmers to brush up their stats and accumulate experience in major competitions. Markov and the others were now substitutes going to brush up their stats and experience. The Great Dawn Church, claiming to crush the demons and have the Rodri continent embrace the dawn. As a result, before today, the only one with experience and achievements in fighting demons was Lael. Ian would be ashamed to say this out loud. Take advantage of today to brush up on your stats so you can justify your position. Furthermore, Markov and the others were Ian's designated heads of the Dawn Holy Knight Legion, and they needed a lot of combat experience. Leisure and the others were not just simple nuns either. Ian's development direction for them was holy nuns. To put it another way, they would have the same status as the Holy Mothers back home. After all, Ian only had these 19's companion who he could completely trust with his life. Help relatives, not strangers. Choose relatives, not the virtuous. This is also a fine tradition of the Holy See. They must grow up as soon as possible and be able to stand alone. The old patriarch have always taught me. The battle between the Winged Clan and the Mind Flayers will never stop until one side is completely destroyed. It was them who burdened us with eternal infamy. It was also them who buried the glory of our Winged Clan and hundreds buried of thousands of our comrades. Uriel's tone was filled with chilling hatred, but the next moment, Uriel closed his eyes and calmed his emotions. He looked at Hania meaningfully. Hania, my daughter, you have ushered in the great dawn and saved the winged clan. Dawn has saved us. We should be aware of our status as children of the dawn. Do you think it's more important to solve those mind flayers below for a moment of pleasure, or to stay here and protect the merciful Pope? Hania was stunned for a moment, then thoughtfully, I understand, Father. How can the life and death of those despicable mind flayers compare to a single hair of the Pope? If something happens to the Pope, we will be unable to atone for our sins, even if we die 10,000 times. Uriel patted Hania's shoulder with satisfaction. Make decisions based on your position. From the moment the Pope summoned lightning, the Winged Clan was destined to fight for the Dawn and the Pope for life. The Great Dawn Church is not a human kingdom, not an elf race, not a dwarf race, and certainly not the fragile alliance of the 100 races. We must strengthen our confidence, strengthen our faith, and be prepared to die for the Dawn and the Pope at any time. So, Uriel looked at Ian's figure in front of him with fanaticism. The Pope's safety is above all else, and the Dawn Church's reputation is above all else. If the Pope is impacted here in our Winged Clan, how can we face the Dawn? Hania sighed seriously. Yes, Father, I understand. After speaking, Hania couldn't help but pout and mutter in a low voice, I was the first to believe in the Dawn, so why are you more devout than me now? Uriel heard this, but just smiled and let it pass. Devotion is not about saying it, but about putting your heart into it. When Ian descended with the trident, chanting exterminate demons, in Uriel's heart, the Dawn Church was already above everything else. Ian didn't pay attention to the conversation between Uriel and his daughter. He was just curiously observing Markov and the others. The latest novels are first released at, after a long time. Ian couldn't help but whisper, Lael, can you see it? Lael slightly, noticing that the Winged Clan people were not around, and lowered his voice to reply, young Master Ian, Markov and the others have become much stronger. In fact, young Master Ian, I also had this idea when I was fighting just now. My strength, even without those equipment, doesn't seem to be much worse than the Master's. Hearing this, Ian was stunned for a moment and whispered, are you also a super awesome knight now? What? Lael didn't hear clearly, and Ian waved his hand. It's not important. So do you know why your strength has improved? Lael pondered for a moment and frowned slightly. During this time, although I haven't practiced stopped, I have too many things to do, and I'm not as diligent as before. I had eaten something special to improve my strength. It doesn't seem like I have. Ian took out his notebook and said with a serious face, diet and rest are very regular, while maintaining good exercise habits. The frequency of exercise has decreased, and there is no history of stimulant drug use. You continue. Lael glanced at Ian blankly and hurriedly said, if there is anything possible, young Master Ian, could it be related to the Dawn Heaven? Ian pondered for a moment and recorded, changes in living environment, no symptoms of acclimatization, menstrual disorders, or hair loss, with certain positive feedback changes. After speaking, Ian glanced at the top of Lael's head, crossed out a sentence, and began to write and read again. There are certain symptoms of hair loss, but not directly related to changes in the living environment. Young Master Ian. Lael raised his voice a little, and Ian laughed. I'm just trying to liven up the atmosphere, because I see we are about to win. You don't understand. A doctor maintaining an optimistic attitude will give patients more positive treatment hope. This is psychology. Lael looked at Ian silently, sighing in his heart. Point Master, I take back what I said earlier. Young Master Ian is still an immature brat at times. According to what you said, your physique in the Dawn Heaven will not be inherited by us in the Rodri continent. Lael pondered for a moment and nodded. After thinking about it, it may be related to the green light spots that enter the body after mining and killing monsters. As soon as these words came out, Ian was stunned in place. After a long while, he exclaimed in surprise, experience points. Shark for your 15 monthly tickets. Thank you to the bosses for your recommendation tickets. Especially to Cloud Lonely Dream for 122 recommendation tickets. Bosses domineering. Chapter 47. The amazing uses of experience levels. What is experience? Lael looked at Ian curiously. The latter pondered for a moment and replied, it's those green specks you said enter your body. With that, Ian couldn't help but raise his hand and pat his head, muttering with slight annoyance, "Damn it, I actually forgot such an important thing." But on closer thought, it seemed normal to forget about experience points without mods. Experience points were the most useless thing to Ian. He wouldn't even spare them a glance point after all. Without mods, they could only be used for enchanting and repairing equipment. Other than that, they could only be used for leveling up point as for what leveling up was good for. From a broad perspective, in the language of civilization, it could be used to farm higher level enchantment affixes having emeralds. Therefore, Ian had never looked at or thought about experience points since entering the MC world. He figured he would only remember it when he loaded a mod that required experience points. Rarely saw Ian so eager. Since entering the MC world, Ian had always been calm and composed. Even when he said he would lead a dozen people to annihilate tens of thousands of demons, his tone was mostly confident, calm, and teasing, common and peculiar. It seems to be only this thing called experience points. On careful recollection, every time I go to the Aurora Heavenly Kingdom, my strength improves somewhat after coming out. At first, I thought it was a feature of the Aurora Heavenly Kingdom. But if you can confirm that we can't inherit your physique after leaving the Aurora Heavenly Kingdom, then it's very likely due to experience points. Ian slightly lowered his head to ponder why his own experience level increased, but didn't show us directly as liars. It was probably because Ian also had 1/5 of Steve's physique in the road continent. Compared to Steve's physique, the increase in strength from experience points was like a drop of water merging into the sea. It would be strange if there was any feedback. Currently, Ian was 60% sure that the experience points in the MC world were really linked to the improvement of Liar's strength. This was a major matter, and to be sure, there had to be experimental proof. This was not child's play. He shouldn't get his hopes up for nothing. If it was really confirmed that leveling up was reflected in Liars and their strength, then he would hit the jackpot. Experience points were too easy to obtain in the MC world. Mob grinders could quickly generate experience, and mining could also drop experience. To put it exaggeratedly, you could level up just by breathing in the MC world. Not to mention, the MC world also had a divine object, experience potions. Ian didn't think much of this stuff before, because he didn't think there was any use in leveling up. But now, experience potions? They were great revival pills. Swallowing a bottle of potion, my fate is in my own hands, not heaven's. Although experience potions were not easy to obtain, they were still easy to find in treasure chests in shipwrecks, dungeons, and pillager outposts in the early stages. What's more, master level priests could also exchange for great revival pills, experience potions. If he opened his mind, he didn't necessarily have to use experience potions. The experience dropped by mob grinders was no than experience potions. If he didn't want to fight monsters, he could also engage in chicken farming, which could lay eggs, provide meat, drop feathers, and generate experience in the road continent. One word to describe it: invincible. However, Ian never had the habit of celebrating victory prematurely, especially for such an important matter that was even related to the direction of the entire Aurora God sect. He had to be rigorous, and even more rigorous. Returning to his thoughts, Ian softly said, after solving the recent troubles, we need to go on an expedition to the MC world. There are many things I need to experiment and confirm as soon as possible. The latest and fastest novels are available at whether bug level multi-block structures like TNT duplicators can be used normally in the road continent. Proving the actual effect of experience levels, expansion and popularization of the Bathow sword mod. He also needed to go deep into the nether and engage in some friendly breeding business with piglins to farm gold and ender pearls, find the nether fortress, farm blaze, find soul sand and nether wart for farming. Build a complete alchemy potion production line. Prepare for the ender dragon. These tasks all required Ian to lead Lyre and them on a hearty expedition. After completing these, the foundation accumulation of the Aurora God sect in the far east region of the 100 Clan Alliance, which is closest to the chasm. Everyone in the Aurora God sect can abstain from beef. At that time, Ian could start the religious erosion from point to surface towards the entire 100 Clan Alliance. When the Aurora shines over the entire 100 Clan Alliance, and after casting the Divine Right of Kings system, the Aurora Butcher knife that integrates the 100 clans can fall on the demons at that time. Ian wants to do something unprecedented and unrepeatable, point crossing the chasm. The Aurora Eastern expedition. Whether it's to avenge old Fog Boss or to fulfill the promise made by Aurora Point, there is absolutely no possibility of coexistence between Ian and the demons. This world should dawn. After pondering for a long time, Ian suddenly looked at Lyra. Lyra, do you remember, when we first entered the MC world, I asked you to open the personal panel. Was there a number on the green bar below the little heart and chicken leg? At the beginning, what was the number in your personal panel? Lyra thought for a moment, and said uncertainly, it seems to be 57. Is there a problem, young Master Ian? Ian smiled. No problem. Now, Ian was 99% sure that the acquisition of experience and the increase in level were indeed reflected in the strength of Lyra and them. However, Ian needed more detailed experimental data to prove the specific situation. At the very least, he had to figure out what each level corresponded to. If all goes well, this would be the creation of a groundbreaking system. Perhaps, in the future, the division of strength in the Road Continent 100 Clan Alliance will be more rigorous. Ian doesn't need to use crude words like Awesome Knight or Super Awesome Knight to judge the strength of others. That is to say, the Realm division of the Road Continent will also be completed by me. Ian thought strangely, and looked back at the Winged Clan with their white wings and pious reverence. The more Ian looked, the more he felt something was wrong. In the dark, he seemed to be embarking on an extraordinary path. While thinking, Uriel suddenly turned pale with fright, flapping his wings towards Ian while shouting angrily, "Your Holiness! Danger!" Chapter 48. The gleaming light of the drawing sword on the continent of Rhodes. Few minutes prior, the Mind Flayer Overseer, trapped in the encirclement, had gone mad. Entrusted with a crucial mission, leading tens of thousands of demonic warriors, he had come to encircle and annihilate the winged folk, his former subordinates. He was filled with thoughts of resolving the situation and returning to be promoted and enriched. This book is first published on the entire network but ever since this group of strange humans arrived, everything had changed. First, he was struck by lightning, then singled out by ridiculously accurate arrows, and then caught in an inexplicable forbidden spell explosion. After this series of events, his soul was still flying in the sky. He hadn't killed many enemies, and only remnants of his tens of thousands of demonic troops remained. And that wasn't the end of it. Then, dozens of iron golem assassins bullied the demons, charging and slaughtering until only a handful were left of them. The rest, to put it bluntly, hadn't even seen the others' faces clearly. With great difficulty, using his proud intellect, which he boasted as the wisdom of a mind flayer strategist, he discovered the loopholes mechanism of the iron golems. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, the group of fellows above began to take advantage of the situation. One by one, clad in iron bucket-like armor, and wielding radiant diamond swords, they descended to continue the slaughter. The Mind Flayer Overseer was about to cry. Had he violated some heavenly law? Did they have to torment him so much? Even if these perverts gave him a quick death, it would be better. But at this moment, at least the Mind Flayer Overseer had not yet cried. Filled with hatred, he rallied the remaining Mind Flayers and those humans for close combat. Among the 100 Races Alliance, only the human race had the weakest basic combat strength. After all, the human race's nobles were even more envious than the King of Envy, lazier than the King of Sloth, and greedier than the King of Greed. Afraid of the shaking of their ruling position, they would never give the lower levels of the human race anything good, including night training methods. Beings in the words of most demons, they were only murderers. But the human nobles were different. They liked to eat people. It was difficult to say who was the real demon. However, because of this, the Mind Flayer Overseer was confident that, in terms of individual strength, each Mind Flayer was stronger than this group of human swords clashed. Accompanied by the sound of his well-forged magic scimitar breaking, the Mind Flayer Overseer really cried everywhere, making it impossible to escape. Fight? Then beware of the iron golems, who might suddenly go crazy and act without chivalry. Sneak attack. Every human's head was flying with winged folk wielding bows. Overseer had never imagined that fighting could be so frustrating. His weapon was useless, it would break with a touch. Fortunately, the Mind Flayer's claws were not to be trifled with. Abandoning his weapon, he was still powerful. With this in mind, the Mind Flayer Overseer nimbly dodged the clumsy iron golem's pincer attack and pounced straight at Markov. Mind Flayer Overseer cried again. Without seeing any action from Markov, the Mind Flayer Overseer's eyes were scarlet, and one of his arms was crippled, making him look even more ferocious. Damn. It's a reflection magic spell. When did those despicable humans learn such advanced magic? Markov beckoned to the Mind Flayer Overseer. Fool. Come again, bastard. The Mind Flayer Overseer was furious, crouching down to gather strength, and then his figure rushed out, heading straight for Markov. But at the instant the two were about to collide, the magic array under the Mind Flayer Overseer's feet flickered with light. Flipping over, he stepped on Markov's shoulder, and then his figure quickly rose, instantly surpassing the winged folk overhead. Wrapped in purple black magic, he rushed towards Ian in the sky. He was not stupid. The bastards on the ground all had this strange reflection equipment, as well as iron golem support. Killing them was as difficult as climbing to the sky. But the human in the sky, who looked like the leader of this group, didn't have it. He still understood the principle of picking the softest persimmon. This battle was already destined to be lost. Most importantly, the human race actually possessed so much advanced magic equipment could at least offset his mistakes with his merits. Although that person had initially displayed extremely terrifying power, the Mind Flayer Overseer was betting that he was a mage. Once he got close, that person would surely die. The newest and most complete novels are first published. The demonic warrior's secret technique was activated, and the Mind Flayer Overseer's speed became even faster. His scalded eyes stared at Ian. Very good. This human bastard was actually chatting with that old man. He had to make this bastard, who despised him, pay the price. They, the demons, were the only ones who looked down on the human race. How could the human race look down on them? Reversing the natural order. Your Holiness. Danger. Finally, Uriel noticed the Mind Flayer Overseer, who was speeding towards Ian like lightning. He roared hoarsely, flapping his wings, and flying Ian towards, seemingly wanting to use his body to block the attack for him. Useless. The Mind Flayer Overseer's mouth cracked into an excited arc. Attacking in anger, using all the demonic secret techniques, he was unstoppable at this moment. Not to mention that the winged folk leader couldn't catch up at all. Even if he did, he would only be skewered like a candied hawthorn. Did he become the Mind Flayer Overseer by flattering and sucking up? Or did the winged folk leader also have that ridiculous reflection magic armor? Die. The Mind Flayer Overseer's shrill voice exploded in the air, and Leal was shocked, instantly drawing his sword. But the next moment, a burst of wind swept up beside him. A golden white sword light was even faster. It seemed that there was a crisp sound of bones breaking, and when he came back to his senses, Leal realized that His Holiness the Pope had somehow stood on the edge of the Sky Island. Ferocious smile remained in a diving posture behind Ian. The whistling wind in the air stopped. The next moment, Ian slowly raised his sword and sent it into the scabbard hanging at his waist. And the expression on the Mind Flayer Overseer's face gradually became blank daze. He caught a glimpse of a headless corpse maintaining a fearless charging posture. The Mind Flayer Overseer suddenly understood. Did I just die like this? That's too hasty. These were the Mind Flayer Overseer's last words. Bang. The corpse fell, without causing any disturbance. Ian slowly straightened his body, the drawing sword hanging at his waist, without turning his head. Standing with his hands behind his back, he looked down at the battlefield below. Sky Island was silent. After a long time, Ian saw that Freecher had personally killed the last Mind Flayer. Only then did he turn his head. The sunlight shone behind him, and his face faintly glowed with golden light. At least, the astonished winged folk and Leal couldn't see it very clearly. Ian slowly spoke, his tone as gentle as when the winged folk first met him. All demons have been defeated. This battle is a great victory. Great brightness heavenly venerable. Book friend 1501. Delusional demon. Leftover old man. Book friend 2024 for the monthly tickets. Thanks to all the bosses for the recommended tickets. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Dawn's Great Victory. Looking at Ian, whose face was calm and indifferent, not even deigning to cast a glance at the Mind Flayer commander on the ground, Lyle finally realized the difference between an ordinary show-off and a true king of showing off. However, it was all too late. The Mind Flayer commander was already dead. After a brief silence, Lyle was overwhelmed by a strong sense of shock and disbelief. For a moment, Lyle even suspected that their young master Ian had been replaced. As an old member of the Forbes family, Lyle had watched Ian grow up. Although called a butler, his relationship with old Forbes was as close as brothers, more like family. As the only heir to the Forbes family, old Forbes and Lyle had high hopes for Ian. Starting from when Ian could walk. Lyle taught Ian the way of the knight and swordsmanship. But Ian's talent, to put it mildly, was a complete disaster. His poor swordsmanship talent had been with Ian for over a decade. Lyle had long given up hope for Ian's way of the sword. But now, what did he see? His young master Ian, who could turn swordsmanship into a dance, had actually unleashed such an earth-shattering, tear-inducing sword strike. Swift as thunder, moving like a ghost. Lyle couldn't help but recall Ian's flattery of old Forbes swordsmanship. A glimmer of cold light arrived first, followed by the dragon-like sword. This scene, applied to Ian just now, was even more fitting. That thunderous sword strike was enough to make any knight skilled in swordsmanship feel inferior. That was the real sword. No fancy moves or techniques, just that extremely fast sword. If it doesn't come out, it's fine, but if it does, it will surely kill. This seems to violate the current trend in the Rodri continent of pursuing sword aura and flashy moves. But on closer thought, isn't that how battles should be? Why use a second strike if you can kill the enemy with one? This is pure, sure kill swordsmanship. But when did Ian learn this technique? Don't even mention a sudden enlightenment from the swordsmanship he taught Ian. To put it bluntly, even old Forbes, the recognized #1 sword knight of the Principality of Bilka, didn't have this level of swordsmanship. However, Lyle wasn't surprised that Ian could easily kill the Mind Flayer commander. He clearly remembered Ian saying that there would still be some of that physique on the Rodri continent. Based on this alone, with the Demon King not appearing, Ian was invincible. Not to mention that Ian wasn't without equipment. On the contrary, Ian's equipment was even more terrifying. A full set of enchanted diamond armor. If the Mind Flayer commander had struck Ian just now, at most, Ian would have taken a step back, and the Mind Flayer commander would have been instantly killed by the reflected damage. So, it can be said, the Mind Flayer commander's wisdom had once again harmed him. This time, the price he paid was his life. Ian, your holiness, are you alright? Lyle suppressed his excitement and agitation, stepped forward, avoided the gazes of Uriel and others, and looked at Ian with eager and longing eyes. He guessed that, if the situation allowed, he would want to spar with Ian right now. Ian understood and gave Lyle a look of reassurance. Then, he chuckled and asked, what could happen to me? Dawn is always shining on me. Uriel and Haniir and the other winged people finally came back to their senses, and had no time to pay attention to the victory below. They rushed forward, carefully examined Ian, and noticed that he didn't even wrinkle his clothes. The next moment, Uriel knelt heavily on the ground, kowtowing at Ian's feet with a face full of shame and danger. Please punish me, your holiness. Ian smiled and helped Uriel up. This strong man was more than a head taller than him, but right now, he was trying his best to bend over and always stay lower than Ian. Things happened suddenly, and his strength was not weak. It's normal that you couldn't react. If you truly feel guilty, then under the light of dawn, strive to become stronger. Yes, your holiness. Uriel looked at Ian with a face full of emotion. Your kindness and generosity are as great as the dawn, like a father, and like a selfless lord. Thank you for your forgiveness. If such a thing happens again in the future, your subordinate will surely atone with death. After saying that, Uriel glared fiercely at the Mind Flayer commander's corpse on the ground. Zeduo liege. Throw this filthy demon down. Leave him exposed in the wilderness as a warning to others. Hand to stop him. Before leaving the city, I promised the citizens of Dawn of Blackwater City that I would bring them back a great victory. Commander's corpse is the best trophy. Let's keep it for now. Take it back and hang it above the city. In the future, anyone who opposes my Dawn will become dust under the Dawn Divine Church's monument of merit. Uriel suddenly understood and quickly said, "Your Holiness has great foresight. Your subordinate is far from reaching that level. Alright, stop flattering me." Ian faced the crowd, and the golden scepter appeared in his hand once again, exuding holiness. "The war is over, and we have achieved a great victory. At this time, there is no need to focus on the demons." Hearing this, the winged people finally came back to their senses and glanced at each other, slightly dazed. The next moment, cheers soared into the sky. "We have won. We have defeated the demon army. Dawn is above. Your Holiness is above. Under your kindness and majesty, we have defeated an incredible enemy. Long live Dawn." Winged people's praise for Dawn was still very elegant, and of course, the exaggeration was also top-notch. Ian listened for a few sentences, and then stopped paying attention. Standing on the edge of the Sky Island, he looked down at Leisure and the others who were also cheering below. For them, this was an incredible victory. Most importantly, Leisure and the other maids who had never fought demons before, also promoted the might of Dawn in this battle. Momentum, this mysterious and profound thing, had already emerged in Leisure, and the others' team of the Dawn Divine Church began to set off. There will be a day. Suddenly, Ian spoke softly, his voice so low that only Lyle beside him could hear. "There will be a day when I will make the 100 Races Alliance cheer like this on the lands of the Far East. Of course, before that day arrives, the 100 Races Alliance must first become children of Dawn." Lyle pursed his lips and smiled, his eyes looking at Ian, already filled with the same faith and respect as other believers. "Of course, you will definitely do it, young Master Ian, only because you are our great and benevolent God of Dawn." Chapter 50, The Secret of the Abyss. War is not worthy of praise, nor is it something to be happy about. However, victory in war is indeed worthy of celebration. But after the brief celebration comes deeper sorrow. Even with Hania's timely arrival for help, this war, where the strength disparity between the two sides was vast, and Ian and the others reacted quickly, Taiwan Novel Network from receiving the request for help to prepare and riding over. Strictly speaking, it took less than 3 hours. Moreover, most of the time was spent on the journey. But in the end, the winged folk were far weaker than the demon race. In just these nearly 3 hours, the winged folk suffered heavy losses. Over 400 elite winged folk warriors were killed or injured, leaving only a little over 500. In addition, the winged folk elders suffered the most casualties. Over 400 died protecting the children who couldn't fly yet, and over 200 went missing, cases of death from severe injuries. Even so, over 1,000 winged folk died in battle. Currently, the entire tribe only has a little over 3,000 members. This is a great blow to the already small winged folk. Resources alone would take at least 10 days to accumulate again, if they didn't deliberately grind for them fighting against the demon race. Overall, Ian and the others' directed losses were acceptable. Helael and the others, to harvest the remaining iron golems, and bring the iron ingots back. Although they had an iron farm, and didn't lack iron, they couldn't be so wasteful. Moreover, Ian wouldn't just leave the iron golems wandering in the wilderness, right? The remaining demonic beast corpses were cleaned up and packed back. The dwarves loved the mind flayers' hearts. To them, it was a valuable forging material that could be exchanged for money. As for the remaining resources from the MC world, take what could be taken and leave what couldn't be taken as a miracle. Perhaps countless years later, this place could become a famous scenic spot. Dawn's first display of thunderous divine might, descending miracles to vanquish demons, was also the Dawn Church's first major victory in the war against the demon race. Cultural and historical significance was maximum doubt. Coupled with the spectacle of the miracle, this place should be rated as a 5-level tourist attraction at the very least. After a long time, the cleanup and organization of the battlefield were almost complete. Uriel, with suppressed grief spreading over him, slowly walked over and knelt before Ian with a thud. "Your Holiness Pope, we want to borrow some money. Too many of our compatriots died in battle. We don't have money, nor do we have enough coffins to bury them." The voice of the burly man, over 2 meters tall, choked with sobs, revealing an irremovable sorrow in his words. Ian sighed. But to talk about gold coins, he didn't have any right now. The Nether hadn't been explored yet, and the first batch of taxes from Blackwater City hadn't started coming in. Even if they did, he probably wouldn't be able to produce much money. Looking at this burly man, who wouldn't even frown when cut a dozen times by demons. Now weeping, Ian looked around, and his eyes lit up. This is the site of the Dawn Church's first great victory against the demon race, and also the winged folk's great victory. Let them rest here. They should also be pleased. What do you think? Uriel looked at Ian with some confusion. The latter beckoned. Bishop Lael, take people to dig a cemetery and use the resources bestowed by Dawn to build a coffin for each of them. Take 500 mind flayer corpses, dig out their hearts, and let them kneel before the graves for eternity, repenting to the winged folk warriors. Lael slightly. Yes, your holiness Pope. Ian turned back and looked at Uriel, whose eyes were red again with excitement. What do you think of this? Uriel didn't speak, but knelt down again, choking out word by word. Thank you for your holiness Pope's mercy. The winged folk will serve Dawn for generations, and godliness through fire and water for your holiness Pope. If we violate this, may our wings rot and we die. Ian helped Uriel up and said softly, since you believe in Dawn, you are children of Dawn. There's no need to be like this. It just so happens that I have something to ask you. Where is the abyss where these demons appeared? Uriel hurriedly pointed south. It's over there. I'll take you there. No need. You go and bury the winged folk warriors with Lael. Hania can take me. Ian patted Uriel's shoulder. The latter nodded repeatedly. Yes, your holiness Pope. Immediately, he solemnly instructed Hania. Hania, be sure to protect your holiness Pope. Pope, please follow me. Abyss to this day, no one on the Roderick continent knows the reason for its formation or the peculiar world phenomenon governing it. It is the direct channel through which the demon race once arrived on the Roderick continent. Appearance almost always heralds bloodshed. The 100 Clan Alliance deeply loathes the abyss, but they have no way to predict its appearance or timing. Countless kingdoms and cities have been destroyed due to the emergence of the abyss. The only research result the 100 Clan Alliance has regarding the abyss is that it cannot be prevented, but it can be destroyed. A small abyss can be shattered by a super powerful knight with a single strike, as long as they find its weak spatial node. This is what old Forbes taught Ian. However, old Forbes also said, the newest novels are first released here. If you are strong enough, you don't need to worry about spatial nodes. Just strike with all your might. Wherever it lands, the abyss will disappear. At least, that's the case for small abyss instances. Faced with the abyss, the 100 Clan Alliance now basically adopts a decapitation strategy, with the strongest leading a team to destroy the spatial node. Of course, such missions are usually a one-way trip. This is Ian's first mission to destroy an abyss, but he's different from the others. He annihilated all the demons within that abyss before leisurely going to destroy it. Looking at the Roderick continent, this can be considered a first in history. This abyss is not far from the Winged Clan's territory, about a minute's dozen away. Soon, Ian saw an irregular crack seemingly embedded in the air. It spewed out a bizarre black-purple torrent of energy, with strands of black-purple energy waving in the air like octopus tentacles. Hania, and walked towards the abyss without fear. Lashania followed closely, passing the dumbfounded Hania with a chuckle. Anything, only a feeling of inherent discomfort from its aura point. The closer he got, the more Ian felt the world conveying a profound sense of sorrow. Strange, but now is not the time to ponder the abyss. Not that he's afraid, but if something really happens, it will be quite troublesome. The Church of the Dawn is not ready to face a massive demon army. An army of over 10,000 demons sounds like a lot, but when demons go to war, they typically mobilize in the millions or tens of millions. Ian could hack with his diamond sword until it's dull, and still not be able to defeat that many. In the early stages, it's never wrong to play it safe. Just to be safe. Ian still pulled out his diamond enchanted sword, and weighed it in his hand. With 1/5 of Steve's physique, plus an enchanted diamond sword, this strike will be powerful. With great force. He didn't need to know where the spatial node was. Overwhelming force breaks all techniques. It's that simple. The next moment, when the diamond enchanted sword collided with the abyss, even though he was striking at space, Ian felt a tactile sensation, as if he had struck something solid. Before he could react, a massive torrent of energy gushed out to shield their rise. But in the storm, Ian stood firm, his gold and white papal robes billowing. Narrowing his eyes slightly, he stared intently as the abyss gradually shrank and faded under the onslaught of energy. until only a small mirror-sized remnant remained. Ian suddenly saw something strange. Beyond the abyss, a figure with wings on its back circled its arms, suspended beneath a blood-red moon. As the wings flapped, the immense wind pressure blew into a large pit, the plain of accumulated bones below. He couldn't see the face clearly, only knew that wings were as black as ink. Seeming to make eye contact with Ian across time and space, in an instant, it disappeared along with the abyss, leaving behind only an inexplicable polygonal crystal. Ian stood still for a long time, until Lashaya picked up the crystal and handed it to him. Only then did Ian call for Hainir and the others to head back, until they had walked to a distance where they could barely see the previous location of the abyss. Ian suddenly turned his head, his gaze deep and sharp. A playful lark appeared at the corner of his mouth. Somewhat interesting now, he was 50% certain. The appearance of the abyss follows a pattern. It's just that this pattern might be the last result the 100 Clan Alliance wants to see. Thank you to Dimensional Space, Bookfriend 2019, Bookfriend 2023, Bookfriend 2022, Nishino Nanace's Out of Circle Boyfriend, Hello Otherworld, First Class Seeking Beauty, Toy Little Bean Bun, Bookfriend 2024. Bookfriend 2021, Where the Heart Goes the Soul Parts, I Like to Become a God in My Dreams, Bookfriend 2019 for the monthly tickets. Thank you to everyone for the recommendation tickets. Thank you to all the big shots. Thank you to fellow Daoist Zioye for the reward. Thank you Big Shot. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.